Chapter 672. A letter that could be placed on the second floor of the meeting hall of the Heavenly Secrets Institute and was valued so much by Vice Principal Wang. Presumably, the things recorded here were very unusual. According to Vice Principal Wang, the things in this letter were related to the origin of heaven and earth. He didn't know why Vice Principal Wang wanted him to read it, but there was no harm in it. Taking a deep breath, Fang Yu mobilized the aura in his body and gathered it around his body to prevent it from being eroded by the power of concept in the letter. Then, his body swayed and instantly merged into the white light on the letter. The surrounding white light and the space shook. This was similar to a spatial teleportation boundary, and Fang Yu had long been used to it. He closed his eyes slightly and estimated that, after a long time, the shaking of the space suddenly disappeared completely. In front of him, the white light was no longer so dazzling. Fang Yu slowly opened his eyes. White. What greeted his eyes was a vast expanse of white. It was different from the white light in the teleportation space. The white light in the teleportation space couldn't see the end. But here there were things and scenery. Being in this white light was like being in the sky. Here, there were no picturesque mountains and rivers, no air, nothing. It was like a special space condensed by a powerhouse. However, being in this space, it was very real. Fang Yu could clearly feel his flesh and blood, which also meant that everything around him was not fake. This was the scene that the powerhouse who wrote this intent realm letter had seen with his own eyes. This was not the continent that Fang Yu lived on at all. To be precise, Fang Yu didn't know where this place was. Different from ordinary continents, this place was filled with white light and was filled with spiritual energy. It was like the heavenly court, but there was no immortal energy like the heavenly court. Here, it seemed that everything would be devoured. Even if he yelled and screamed, he couldn't hear a single sound. After getting used to the white light with great difficulty, Fang Yu began to examine his surroundings. In the middle of the white light there was a towering tree standing there. That tree was colorless and almost transparent. If it wasn't for the clearly visible frame and outline, Fang Yu wouldn't have been able to see that there was a tree there. The towering tree stood in this white light, and he couldn't see how tall or how thick it was. The surroundings were cold and cheerless, and it seemed very apprehensive. From Fang Yu's point of view, which was the powerhouse who wrote the letter, the shadow of this tree was only the tip of the iceberg, and the power contained in this tip of the iceberg was enough to make one shudder in fear. It was as if he was in a sea of stars, looking at many galaxies, and feeling the endless power of the abyss. At the same time, it made his heart tremble. He couldn't help but feel an incomparably powerful sense of oppression. This feeling, Fang Yu's game. It was very similar to the feeling of shock and suffocation when he was comprehending the ancient chess nebula map. This kind of feeling was very uncomfortable. After all, Fang Yu was simply too small when compared to the towering tree. He continued to size up the tree, and the suffocating feeling grew stronger and stronger. However, Fang Yu couldn't take his eyes off of it. It was as if there was a powerful force of resentment not far away, attracting him. This feeling also appeared when he was comprehending the Star Book of Legends, but it was still within Fang Yu's range of control. But here, Fang Yu couldn't control himself at all. The sense of oppression in his heart was getting stronger and stronger, and his heartbeat suddenly rose to the limit. Fang Yu felt that all the blood in his body was flowing wildly, and his blood vessels were about to burst. The feeling of suffocation instantly turned into fear. A fear that came from the abyss. Fang Yu had never felt this kind of fear before. This was the fear of being on the verge of death. Bang! Just as Fang Yu was about to lose consciousness, his body suddenly felt like it had been electrocuted, and there was a huge pain. Then, this pain instantly woke Fang Yu up. When he opened his eyes again, Fang Yu found that he was still on the second floor of the council hall, and the pain just now was caused by Deputy Dean Wang. He slowly withdrew his strength and looked at Fang Yu with a slight sigh of relief, but his eyes were very strange. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. At this moment, Fang Yu finally regained his senses. The feeling of suffocation just now didn't seem to have completely disappeared. It could be said that that feeling was very real. In the power of the artistic conception, if one accidentally lost his mind, this kind of situation would occasionally happen. What did you see? Deputy Dean Wang also reacted at this time, and there was some horror in his eyes. He almost shouted at Fang Yu, "You almost died, do you know?" After that, there was still a trace of fear in his eyes. "A tree," Fang Yu murmured. "Yes, it's that tree. That strange force was on that tree." After recovering, Fang Yu recalled the scene just now, and he was still a little shocked. Tree. Not only Fang Yu, but now it was Deputy Dean Wang's turn to be surprised. How could there be a tree? Deputy Dean Wang frowned and thought hard. If it wasn't for Fang Yu's situation just now, Deputy Dean Wang even wanted to go in and take a look himself. However, after thinking about it, looking at Fang Yu, it didn't seem like he was lying, so he asked, "What kind of tree?" "It's very big, so big that it's boundless. That feeling, it's like..." At this point, Fang Yu shook his head and didn't continue. Because that feeling was like the sin thrown after it had expanded infinitely. It was boundless and incomparably shocking. That strange. Deputy Dean Wang shook his head, frowned at Fang Yu, and said, "I've seen this scene in the artistic conception several times. To be precise, it's a space node that transcends the continent. As for what tree, why didn't I see it?" When he muttered to himself, Fang Yu heard something strange. "This is a space node that transcends the continent?" There was some surprise in his eyes, and he continued to ask, "Transcends the continent, does it really exist?" At this time, Fang Yu had recovered from the thrilling scene just now, and his mind was completely focused on Deputy Dean Wang's words. He originally thought that the so-called transcends the continent was just a fiction, but now he thought that it really existed. Moreover, he even felt it up close just now. That's right, transcends the continent, it's indeed not a legend. Deputy Dean Wang also calmed down at this time, looked at Fang Yu, and said with certainty. Then, he pointed at the envelope. This letter was sent back by the previous dean of our Azure Dragon Academy. This is the power of the artistic conception, which means that what you saw was all seen by the previous dean with his own eyes. Deputy Dean Wang's words slowly drifted into Fang Yu's ears. Fang Yu was even more confused. The previous dean? Didn't he already fall? Chapter 673. Fang Yu frowned as he tried to recall. This was what Yao Qi had said. Furthermore, it was clearly written in the historical records of the Azure Dragon Academy. If he didn't remember wrongly, the previous headmaster had indeed fallen, without a doubt. Hundreds of years ago, the previous principal had accidentally fallen while suppressing a demon king from the demon clan. The principal deliberately released the news to confuse others. Vice Principal Wang shook his head. He had no intention of hiding it. He looked at Fang Yu and continued, "I have no need to hide it from you. The previous principal had been trapped in the martial honorable realm for too long. In the end, he had no choice but to go to the origin of heaven and earth to try his luck. He had been gone for a few hundred years. A few decades ago, he used the spirit crane to send back this letter. It was about the origin of heaven and earth. Although the letter did not mention anything, it was obvious that he had found the legendary space node that transcended the continent. However, for some unknown reason, he was trapped in this space and could not advance or retreat. It was a pity that no one in the Azure Dragon Academy had the strength to go to the Little Four Corner. No one knew where this place was. When Vice Principal Wang said this, he could not help but shake his head. His eyes were filled with helplessness. The previous principal had reached the martial honorable realm and had found the space node that transcended the continent at the origin of heaven and earth. However, no one had been able to help him. Thinking about it, he felt extremely helpless. I'm afraid that the principal's intention was not to ask for help. After hearing Vice Principal Wang's words, Fang Yu shook his head. He seemed to have thought of something and interrupted him. Vice Principal Wang frowned and asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" He seems to be hinting at something. After a long while, Fang Yu slowly spoke. He was almost certain from his words. The problem was with that tree. Obviously, there was something wrong with that tree. As for what the problem was, Fang Yu was not sure. After all, what he saw was only the message that the previous principal wanted to convey. He did not have the opportunity to see more. If he wanted to know the answer, he might have to go there personally. Muttering in his heart, Fang Yu didn't continue. If he had the chance in the future, he would go to the tree and see for himself. Perhaps. Vice Principal Wang nodded. This seemed to be a form of consolation. Since Fang Yu had seen things differently from him, it was likely that he knew more than him. Fang Yu must have his reasons for saying so. Since the transcendent continent really exists, I think it's better for you to take a look. Vice Dean Wang looked at Fang Yu and said. Fang Yu nodded. He really wanted to know what was on the transcendent continent. It was no wonder that even Lin Tian Martial Saint had been searching for the origin of heaven and earth for so many years. There must be something special there. However, now was not the time. Now, he could only raise his cultivation level. After staying in the Azure Dragon Institute for 2 days, Fang Yu went to see Lai Cheng and planned to leave. When Fang Yu left that year, Lai Cheng was already at the peak of martial spirit realm. Now, after some experience, she had become a 2-star martial king expert. Recently, she would no longer stay in the institute. Instead, she would train in the mountains around the institute. Fang Yu spent quite a bit of effort before he finally found her trail. Without staying any longer, Fang Yu bade farewell to Lai Cheng. Originally, he planned to go back to the Heavenly Chance Institute to take a look. However, it would take more than a month to rush back to Qiushi City from here. When he got there, the Pill Saint's pill furnace should be almost ready. He was a little excited and couldn't help but speed up. After all, the situation on the origin of heaven and earth was no longer unknown. At least, Fang Yu knew that the space that led to the transcendent continent really existed. This temptation could be said to be somewhat strong. However, Fang Yu's current strength was not enough to go alone. Now, the most important thing was to raise his cultivation level. Only when he was strong enough would he have a chance to stand on the side of the origin of heaven and earth. More than a month later, Fang Yu had already appeared in the Purple Spirit Mountain range. When he passed by Qiushi City, Fang Yu was a little surprised. In more than a month's time, Qiushi City had become an empty city. Most of the people here had already moved away. He didn't know where they got the news from, but it was said that there would be experts from the transcendent continent descending. They were so scared that they didn't dare to stay here any longer. This was good too. Fang Yu didn't have to be careful. Following the Purple Spirit Mountain range, he found the place where the Pill Saint lived. Unlike before, there was no familiar pill fragrance coming from here. Instead, there was a powerful aura. Fang Yu was very familiar with this aura. It was the peerless pill furnace in the wooden house that Fang Yu admired very much. This pill furnace was also used by the Pill Saint himself. It would be fake if Fang Yu didn't want to covet this kind of peerless pill furnace. However, a gentleman's desire for wealth was justified. The Pill Saint already promised Fang Yu's pill furnace. He naturally wouldn't go back on his word. The aura was very thick. It looked like the peerless pill furnace had already been born. You really know how to pick a day. Just finished. Inside the wooden house, the Pill Saint already detected Fang Yu's aura and said with a chuckle, "Come in and take a look." Fang Yu forcefully suppressed the excitement in his heart and walked into the wooden house. The scene that greeted his eyes was no different from before. However, beside that exquisite and small pill furnace, the pill saint was currently applying glaze on another pill furnace. Carefully completing the last stroke, only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Pointing at the pill furnace in front of him, he said, "All right?" Only then did Fang Yu's gaze landed on that pill furnace. Compared to that exquisite and small pill furnace, this pill furnace was slightly larger in size. It was just that the aura on this pill furnace, as well as the patterns on the pill refining, were very regular. Pure appearance, complicated craftsmanship. This alchemy cauldron was undoubtedly the peerless alchemy cauldron that Fang Yu had in mind. Although on the surface there was no difference between it and an ordinary pill furnace. However, after all, it was made with the yellow mud of Mount Desolate City and the exquisite craftsmanship of the pill saint. The power contained in it was even almost surpassing that of a peerless pill furnace. "Thank you, Senior Pill Saint." Fang Yu smiled and looked at the pill furnace. There was a look of surprise in his eyes. In just 3 months, the pill saint was able to create such a high-grade pill furnace. It was really shocking. Moreover, in addition to the technique of creating pill furnaces, the pill saint also had the skill of refining pills. It could be said that this person was an expert among the alchemists chosen by heaven. Chapter 674. The pill saint was rather solitary. To be able to help Fang Yu forge this pill furnace, Fang Yu already felt extremely fortunate. Furthermore, the pill saint's thoughts seemed to be completely focused on pill refinement. Fang Yu originally wanted to give a few crystals as a token of appreciation, but the pill saint did not think much of it at all. He only said indifferently, "If you really want to thank me, then bring me another stalk of purple mystic flower." These words were said casually, as if purple mystic flowers could be found everywhere and could be picked up everywhere. This made Fang Yu gnash his teeth a little. This old fellow really knew how to ask for an exorbitant price. There were not many crystals left, so Fang Yu did not dare to continue wasting them. After thanking him, he left the pill saint's wooden house. He had been living in seclusion for a long time and was not used to being surrounded by people all the time. Fang Yu had originally planned to stay in the wooden house for a few more days to learn the pill saint's superb pill refinement skills. However, before he could speak, the pill saint had already chased him away. Before leaving, he even left a sentence: "If that old fart of yours did not die at the heaven and earth source, ask him to come to me when he returns. I have something to ask him." The words, "I have something to do," were said in a flat tone. However, Fang Yu could clearly sense that there was a hidden meaning in his words. This old fellow had definitely offended the pill saint. Otherwise, the pill saint would have scolded him like this. After coming out of Purple Spirit Mountain, Fang Yu did not stay in Autumn City for long. After a long journey, he returned to the Heavenly Secrets courtyard. The Heavenly Secrets courtyard was still deserted, and Blue Knight had gone somewhere at this time. On the other hand, those 2 unlucky senior brothers seemed to have changed their temperaments and stood obediently in front of the door to guard it. This surprised Fang Yu a little. He did not know what method the old fellow used to make the 2 of them so obedient. However, these 2 unlucky senior brothers had no intention of talking to him. Fang Yu did not ask for a rebuff and walked into the backyard. The 8 desolate secret territories slowly opened. After a distortion in space, Fang Yu went in. There were less than 4,000 crystals left. In one breath, he directly exchanged for 2 stalks of purple daylily and took out the alchemy furnace that the pill sage had personally forged. A peerless grade pill furnace coupled with a peerless grade spirit herb. Furthermore, the time inside the 8 desolate secret dimension was different from the time outside. A month later, a grayish-black pill appeared in Fang Yu's alchemy furnace. Peerless grade pill. He wasn't as patient as the pill sage, who would spend a lot of effort to inhale the fragrance after forming the pill. Instead, he directly held it in his hand. The quality was not bad, and the appearance was also good. The power contained in it was much better than the one he had refined with an ordinary alchemy furnace. This one was completely worth the high price of 10,000 crystals. After completing the first bead, Fang Yu did not stop and threw the second purple daylily into the furnace. Using the residual heat from the last pill refinement, the smelting speed of the purple daylily increased by quite a bit. In just over 20 days, the outer shape of the supreme grade pill had already been formed. This surprised Fang Yu. This speed was truly way too fast. Looking at the two perfect supreme grade pills in his hands, Fang Yu smiled gently. He had made a killing with 20,000 crystals. The exit of the 8 desolate secret dimension opened slowly. With a leap, Fang Yu walked out of the backyard. When he came out, there was even a faint pill fragrance beside him. Fang Yu was not in a hurry either. He walked around the Heavenly Secrets courtyard and finally found Blue Knight at the back mountain. At this moment, she was already in a daze and seemed to be intoxicated by the power of knowledge. Fang Yu thought for a moment and did not disturb her as he left slowly. Coming out of the Heavenly Secrets courtyard, Fang Yu headed straight for Illusion Sea City. Illusion Sea City was the young master of the Lu family. If that cunning fatty knew that he was about to obtain 2 peerless grade pills, who knew how he would feel? Muttering to himself, Fang Yu increased his speed. 2 days later, he was already outside Illusion Sea City. Illusion Sea City was not very big. It was different from the cities in Taowei State. There were no sects or factions here. Only a few big families stood side by side here. The one leading them was the famous Lu clan. Next were the Ding family and the Chen family. These 3 families had stood side by side in Illusion Sea City for hundreds of years and had a rich foundation and wealth. Especially the Lu family, it was said that their net worth had exceeded millions of crystals. Even if they ate and drank casually, they would not be able to spend it all in a few generations. Compared to the ethereal state, the Mirage Sea City was much more lively. Walking on the streets, the crowd was crowded. Many people were hawking by the roadside. The taverns and shops were crowded and bustling. It was quite similar to Distant Star City back then. However, Distant Star City was now a dead city. It was empty and there were not many people. It was a stark contrast to before. Fang Yu, who had long been used to loneliness, suddenly appeared in this bustling Illusion Sea City. He felt a little uncomfortable. Illusion Sea City was not big and was divided into 3 districts. The first piece of land was the entrance area. It was mainly some shops that did business. The second area was the area of the poor. Many poor people were gathered here. The third district was the real rich district, and the Lu family lived in the third district. In Illusion Sea City, it was not difficult to find out the location of the Lu family. Almost no one who had lived in Illusion Sea City did not know the location of the Lu family. In the third district, the biggest house and the most luxurious courtyard belonged to the Lu family. However, the Lu family had always been heavily guarded. It was difficult for ordinary people to get close to them. After all, they were so rich and formed a sharp contrast with the poor in the second district. Moreover, they did not have any sects or factions behind them. So, they could only cultivate their own experts. Fang Yu casually asked a local, and had already roughly figured out the specific location of the Lu family. It was very simple. Just follow the main road and go straight into the third district. Then, he would find the location of the Lu family. Fang Yu did not stay for long. He sped up and walked directly to the third district. After a few breaths, Fang Yu was already standing at the intersection of the third district. At this point, Fang Yu stopped. It was not because he was stopped by the guards of the Lu family, but because he was blocked by the crowded crowd. In front of him, the straight road leading to the Lu family had been blocked by the crowd. Fang Yu could not find any space to squeeze in. In the end, he had no choice but to stop and look at the group of people gathered here. These people, at this time, had a look of pity on their faces. They were pointing at the Liu family not far away. This Liu family, I guess this time they can't escape. There's no other way. Who asked them to be the biggest family? It's normal for them to be targeted. They should also bleed, otherwise they will become bigger and bigger. Chapter 675. The crowd seemed to be discussing something. Between their words, Fang Yu had a rough idea of what was going on. They were talking about the Liu clan in front of them. From the meaning of their words, Fang Yu learned a piece of information. The Liu clan was in trouble. They didn't know how they offended the Ding clan and Qin clan, who were also standing side by side with them. At this moment, the two clans joined forces and invited many experts from other places to cause trouble for the Liu clan. The Liu clan was targeted by the Ding clan and Qin clan at the same time. Moreover, according to the crowd, although the Liu family was wealthy, they were not prepared to be attacked by the joint forces of these two families and other experts. Just based on what the crowd outside said, the Liu clan was probably doomed this time. Apart from the experts they cultivated, they didn't have any background or influence. Therefore, this was also the reason why the Ding clan and Qin clan dared to make a move against them this time. Fang Yu couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart. Of all the times to cause trouble, why now? If the Liu clan was finished, it would be equivalent to Fang Yu's money tree arriving. Could it be that these two peerless medicinal pills had to be sent to the Zishuan pavilion to be auctioned? Fang Yu shook his head, feeling somewhat helpless. Taking advantage of the gap in the crowd, Fang Yu squeezed into the crowd. Following the small path in the backyard, he groped his way into the Liu clan. No matter what, since he was already here, Fang Yu naturally had to continue his business. As for the struggle between the three clans, it had nothing to do with Fang Yu. As long as he sold these two peerless medicinal pills as soon as possible, he could rest assured. The Liu clan's side courtyard was indeed a bit big. Fang Yu circled around the backyard for a long time before he finally found a garden. He forced his way through the garden to the main courtyard, bypassing the pavilions, terraces, and pavilions, and finally found the way to the front courtyard. After walking around for a long time, a huge square appeared in front of Fang Yu's eyes. This square occupied a rather large area, a bit similar to the Tianji courtyard square. Fang Yu already had some regrets in his heart. It seemed that the price he offered to Fatso Liu for 10,000 crystals was a bit of a loss from the looks of it. Even if it was 15,000 crystals, he might still agree. Muttering to himself, Fang Yu's gaze began to sweep across the square. At this moment, the huge square was already densely packed with people. These people were divided into two formations. On the left, Fatso Liu was the leader. Behind him were many experts at the peak of the martial king realm. There were two other elders standing in front of Fatso Liu. These two elders were already martial emperors. In front of them, there were dozens of people standing in line. Among these dozens of people, a few of them had already reached the realm of martial emperor. The rest of them were mostly 7-star martial emperors. Behind these people, there were many followers. Their strength was around the peak of martial spirit realm. Just by looking at the numbers and strength, it was obvious that Fatso Liu's side was much weaker. This was indeed the case. Ding Qi, you're just the bastard child of the Ding family's patriarch and his servant girl. How dare you collude with the Qin family to cause trouble for our Liu family? If your father finds out, he'll break your legs. Fatso Liu pointed at a short and ugly young man in front of him and scolded. That young man looked ferocious. His face was covered in dirt and his clothes were extremely sloppy. He looked like he could compete with the old man. If he had a wine pot hanging on his waist, he would look like the old man's illegitimate son. He wondered what the old man would think when he saw him. However, Fang Yu had never seen such a sloppy and ugly person. Moreover, this person was the young master of the Ding family, the second family in Mirage Sea City. As Fatso Lu scolded, he looked back at the people from the Chun family and frowned. The Lu family is messing around. Don't tell me your Chun family is also like this fool? Damn fatty, why do you have so much nonsense to say? Ding Qi's face was ferocious as he interrupted Fatso Lu impatiently. He grinned, revealing his yellow teeth, and said with a smile, "My father, that old man, doesn't have many years left to live. He's afraid of your Lu family, but I'm different." After saying that, he pointed at the two martial emperors behind him and said, "Today is the day your Lu family will be exterminated." As soon as he finished speaking, the people from the Chun family also snorted coldly. "What? Your Lu family has been domineering in Mirage Sea City for so many years, and you still refuse to give up your position? So you're saying that you're determined to attack?" Fatso Lu was not a fool. The other party's intention was obvious. They were going to fight to the death. Immediately, his face became vigilant and he took a few steps back. "Since you want to die, then don't blame me." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and gave a look to the people beside him. The few of them understood, and a violent aura suddenly erupted from their bodies. A chaotic battle immediately broke out. The two elders from the Lu family had a strong aura and attacked at the same time. Their fists broke through the air and rumbled. In the blink of an eye, Ding Qi and the experts from the Chun family had fallen to the ground. "What are you waiting for? Go!" Ding Qi waved his hand impatiently at the two people behind him. These two people were experts that he had invited from Shire State at a high price. Their purpose was to eradicate the Lu family. Naturally, the two experts were not in a daze. After looking at each other, they condensed an aura around their bodies and joined in the chaotic battle. Fatso Lu stared coldly at Ding Qi and the people from the Qin family. A long sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Raging flames. This attack was aimed at Ding Qi's head. Fang Yu stood to the side and coldly watched the battle in front of him. He had not seen Fatso Lu for a while, but his realm had improved very quickly. Last time, he was only a 6-star martial king. Now, he was already an 8-star martial king. It was very likely that he would reach the peak of the martial king realm in a while. It seemed that the effect of the supreme grade elixir was quite strong. As soon as he attacked, flames gushed out from the sky. Ding Qi's strength was not weak. He condensed his fists into the air, and gathered a burst of power, forcibly blocking Fatso Lu's attack. Then, he directly took 2 steps back and waved his hand at the followers behind him. His intention was obvious. He wanted to use them to exhaust Fatso Lu's strength. When Fatso Lu was almost exhausted, they would make their move. It had to be said that this idea was quite despicable. This chaotic battle lasted for a long time. Because Fatso Lu and the others desperately defended each other, although they were a little fewer in number, they did not fall into a disadvantage. However, as time passed, the guards of the Lu family gradually began to tire. In a short while, 5 or 6 people had fallen to the ground one after another. After a few breaths of time, only Fatso Lu and the 2 elders were left in the square. As for the followers that Ding Qi brought, they were still constantly exhausting the strength of the 3 of them. For a while, they did not lose much. Overall, they still had the upper hand. Chapter 676. In the square, the remaining 2 elders of the Lu family were already a little tired. The 2 martial monarchs were facing off against the other 2 martial monarchs. It was very difficult to determine the winner among those of the same level. In addition, Ding Qi and the Qin family's followers were constantly consuming their strength. In the blink of an eye, both of them were at a disadvantage. The 2 powerhouses from Shire State did not have to expend much effort at this time. On the other hand, Fatso Lu was constantly being besieged by a group of people. Although those martial spirit level followers were no threat to him at all. But after all, the other party outnumbered him. For a while, he could not escape. "Young master, hurry up and leave. I'll hold them back." Go and call the family head back. Avenge us. After all, the two elders were experienced. They knew that if this continued, it would not be long before they died here. Therefore, the two of them shouted at Fatso Lu. This is our Lu family's place. I will never leave. Although Fatso Lu was quite tactful, he was a little stubborn at this time. He desperately resisted the siege of those people, the sword chi in his hand wildly waving. The supreme grade pill was circulating wildly in his body. He had no problem holding on for a while. Hearing their words, Fang Yu finally came to his senses. No wonder Ding Qi dared to bring the Chun family to cause trouble at the Lu family. It turned out that the Lu family was not at home. He did not know where they went. It was no wonder. In such a big Lu family, Fang Yu walked all the way from the backyard to here and did not see a single person. And in the square, there were only two elders and a few followers. The strength of the Lu family, the #1 family in Fantasy Sea City, could not be so weak. Presumably, the main force was no longer at home. This was also the reason why Ding Qi dared to come with the Chun family. At least he had some brains and knew to take advantage of the situation. Fang Yu shrugged. If the Lu family had not left, with just the few of them, they would not even be able to enter the Lu family's house. But now, in the empty Lu family's house, there was indeed no one who could resist them. Rumble! Just as Fang Yu was muttering to himself, the figures of the two elders of the Lu clan had already flown out from the square not far away. He fell in front of Fang Yu and stopped breathing. The two cultivators from Shire had been holding back all this time. Once the attendants of the Ding clan had exhausted the two of them, they would attack at the same time with all their might. The effect was not bad. Elder! Fatso Lu, who was still being besieged, saw the two elders fall to the ground, and his expression immediately changed. Now, the situation was already one-sided. The Ding clan and Chun clan obviously had the upper hand. There was no need for Ding Qi and the people from the Chun family to make a move. The two experts from Shire had already surrounded Fatso Lu. Kill him! Ding Qi roared heartbreakingly, as if Fatso Lu had stolen his wife. His eyes were full of madness. Fang Yu knew that this was their only chance. If they couldn't kill Fatso Lu now and take over the Lu clan, once the people from the Lu clan returned, what awaited them would be a disaster. Therefore, this time, they had no intention of holding back. After the two experts from Shire had surrounded Fatso Lu, they were not in a hurry to make a move. On the contrary, the attendants of the Ding clan and the Chun clan could no longer sit still. They attacked Fatso Lu crazily. Fatso Lu had an easy time dealing with them. However, as time passed and there were two martial emperors behind him, he was afraid that he would not be able to escape death. The people from the Lu clan obviously had not realized that their house was on fire, and they had no intention of returning. Rumble, 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 as expected. When Fatso Lu was tired of dealing with the attendants of the Ding clan and the Chun clan, an opening suddenly appeared behind him. Just this one flaw was enough to give the two experts from Shire an opportunity to strike. Their fists turned into palms, and violent power directly bombarded Fatso Lu's body. With a loud, muffled sound, Fatso Lu's bloated body was directly sent flying. Bang! Another sound that resounded through the heavens and earth. Fatso Lu crashed into the statue in the square. Fortunately, he had a lot of fat on his body, so he was not affected much when he fell to the ground. He forced himself to get up from the ground and stared at Ding Qi and the people from the Chun clan with a serious gaze. He slowly said, "Even if you kill me today, you won't get any benefits. It's a pity that there's no one in my house, otherwise, you won't be able to leave." After he finished speaking, he frowned and looked at Ding Qi and asked, "You've mobilized so many people and taken such a big risk this time. You don't just want to kill my Lu clan to vent your hatred, do you? Tell me, what do you want?" Fatso Lu stared at them with a serious gaze and slowly backed away. "What do we want? We want you dead. The Lu clan's young master is dead, and it won't be long before the Lu clan is done for. Ding Qi smiled sinisterly, as if there was a deep hatred between him and Fatso Lu. This Fatso is very cunning. Don't waste your breath with him. Attack, kill him. Ding Qi could not wait to take revenge. Obviously, his purpose in coming to the Lu clan was not to get anything, but purely to take Fatso Lu's life. Wait! However, as soon as he finished speaking, the people from the Chen clan interrupted him. What do you mean? Ding Qi frowned. Damn Fatso, I'll give you two options. First, I heard that the Lu clan has a set of sword techniques, which is the sword technique that the Lu clan cultivates. If you teach this set of sword techniques, our Chen clan will drop the matter. You and the Ding clan can fight to the death, and it has nothing to do with us. Second, we'll join forces with the Ding clan and kill you immediately. The people from the Chen clan did not take Ding Qi's words seriously at all. They looked at Fatso Lu and said, "Ha ha!" Fatso Lu laughed in a deep voice. I told you that the Chen clan is not as stupid as the Ding clan. Don't you want the sword technique? I'll give it to you. Fatso Lu sneered, and then his gaze turned gloomy. He changed his tone and said, I can give you the sword technique, but you have to kill the Ding clan first. Fatso Lu chuckled as he looked at the people from the Chen clan. He had already determined in his heart that the Chen clan were smart people. Without something very tempting, the Chen clan would definitely not take such a big risk to offend the Lu clan. Now that the Chen clan had taken the initiative to speak, things would be easier. Chen clan, we had an agreement back then. We'll kill this damn Fatso from the Lu clan, and you can take your things. Why are you trying to change sides now? After hearing Fatso Lu's words, Ding Qi's expression changed. His face was instantly covered with a cold expression. He turned around and stared coldly at the people from the Chen clan. There was already a hint of vigilance on his face. Why are you so anxious? I'm not a fool. Why would I listen to this Fatso's nonsense? Chapter 677. The Chens snorted and glared at Ding Qi. After a while, they looked back at Fatso Lu and said, Fatso, you are not qualified to negotiate with us now. Either you obediently impart the sword art to me or you die. The last sentence was said in a gloomy tone, as if he didn't want to give Fatso Lu any chance at all. You are smart. Ding Qi snorted coldly. If the Chen family were to turn against him now, then his plan would be for naught. Although he knew that the Chens were cunning, it seemed that they still had some conscience. I said, if you want the swordsmanship, kill them. Otherwise, kill me. Fatso Lu seemed to have expected all of this. He stood where he was with an expression that said he would rather die than submit. He was not in a hurry. His words were full of threats and temptations. It had to be said that Fatso Lu was quite cunning. Now, he was instigating the relationship between the two families. Only in this way could they survive. What else is there to say? Go to hell. Fatso Lu's words made the Chens hesitate. Ding Qi could no longer sit still, fearing that the situation would change if he delayed. The two martial emperors invited from the Shire state directly attacked. Fatso Lu seemed to have expected that they would attack, so he didn't dodge. He looked at the Chens again and said, If I die, you will have offended the Lu family for nothing. As for the swordsmanship, don't even think about it. You are smart people. You came here for nothing and offended people. It is a thankless task. After he finished speaking, he dodged and barely dodged the attacks of the two powerhouses. Ding Qi spent a lot of money to invite the two of them. They used all their killing moves as soon as they attacked. Fatso Lu's face was gloomy. Obviously, he couldn't withstand it. Just as the two powerhouses were about to attack again, the Chens moved. Boom, boom, boom. Several of the powerhouses at the peak of the martial king realm stood in front of Fatso Lu and blocked the full-force attacks of the two martial emperors. What is the meaning of this? Ding Qi stared at the Chens coldly, his eyes full of murderous intent. "This Fatso can't die yet." The Chens shook their heads and stood in front of Fatso Lu with determined eyes. "Get out of the way!" Ding Qi let out a gloomy roar. The Chun clan remained unmoved. "Then you're courting death?" Ding Qi snorted coldly, his eyes filled with killing intent. "Kill them all." Without any hesitation, Ding Qi turned his ally into an enemy. The people from the Chun family opened their mouths, but before they could say anything, the two powerhouses from Shire had already made their move. Rumble, the berserk power instantly dispersed. After all, the cultivators from Shire State were all martial emperors. The people of the Chun clan were only at the martial emperor realm. Fortunately, there were many of them and they surrounded the two of them. They were barely able to resist for a while. "Damn fatty, hurry up and take me to find the sword art, or I'll kill you." The young master of the Chun family wasn't a fool. He knew that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. He instantly pressed his blade against Fatty Lu's Adam's apple and threatened him. "What's the rush? Let's wait a little longer." Fatso Lu laughed unhurriedly. The blade was sharp, but he knew that the young master of the Chun family would not do anything to him. "Cut the crap!" The young master of the Chun clan roared. "Don't think that I won't dare to kill you. Behave yourself." "Fine, fine, fine. I'll take you there." Fatso Lu smiled slightly, without the slightest hint of panic on his face. The two eyeballs in his eye sockets kept moving. Fang Yu knew in his heart that this guy was probably planning something again. In the square, the few followers of the Chun clan had already been sent flying. The two martial emperors could easily defeat them. It was only a matter of time. The young master of the Chun clan was already very anxious. He pulled Fatso Lu and kept retreating. Fang Yu watched in a daze. He had no intention of making a move. This Fatso Lu was cunning and cunning. It was impossible that he couldn't even deal with the few of them. Seeing that the young master of the Chun clan had dragged Fatso Lu to the backyard, Fang Yu slowly followed. After all, the backyard of the Lu clan was quite big. After several turns, Fang Yu finally found the two of them. "I don't want to say this, but you're the young master of the Chun clan. Why are you like that, fool Ding? If you want the sword technique, just say the word and name a price. Is it necessary to go through all this trouble? If your father knows about this, won't you be beaten to death?" Fatso Lu was being held by the young master of the Chun clan, but his mouth was still not idle. He kept talking non-stop, but the young master of the Chun clan had no intention of responding to him. "How about this? Let me go, and I'll personally send the sword technique to your residence another day. Let's pretend that nothing happened today. It was all that fool Ding's doing. What do you think?" Seeing that the young master of the Chun clan had no intention of speaking, Fatso Lu continued to talk. "Shut up. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Don't play tricks with me. Hurry up." The young master of the Chun clan roared angrily. He couldn't help but increase the strength of his hand. "Sigh, why are you so stubborn?" Fatso Lu laughed dryly. His face suddenly became gloomy. "I'll ask you one last time. Put down the knife and go back. This matter won't be your Chun clan's fault." "Damn fatty, can you shut up? Do you really want to die?" When Fatso Lu still wanted to say something, the veins on the young master of the Chun clan's forehead had already popped out. He roared. It seemed that he really couldn't stand Fatso Lu's endless chatter. "Okay, then I'll shut up." Fatso Lu shrugged and muttered with a gloomy face, "I think you're the one who wants to die. What did you say?" The young master of the Chun clan frowned. He didn't seem to hear what Fatso Lu was muttering. "I said, you're courting death." When the young master of the Chun clan was listening, Fatso Lu's gloomy tone had already sounded in his ears. In the next second, Fatso Lu's entire body suddenly slipped from the young master of the Chun clan's hands like a loach. His movements were as fast as lightning. Before the young master of the Chun clan could fully react, he turned around and threw a punch. Boom! There was a loud bang. The young master of the Chun clan wasn't prepared for Fatso Lu's sudden move at all. There was no preparation, and there was no time to react. He was blasted away by Fatso Lu's all-out attack just like that. A moment later, he fell to the ground. He was already on the verge of death. Damn it, why don't you take a look at yourself? Coming to our Lu clan to cause trouble? You're still too inexperienced. Let me tell you, I've been suppressing you since you were young. Now, I'm still suppressing you because you're stupid. Fools will always be fools. They'll only be used by others. Fatso Lu walked to the front of the young master of the Chun clan in a few steps and cursed wildly. He was like a shrew cursing on the street. He spat out 3 sentences in a second, and none of them were repeated. Chapter 678. Damn fatty, you sneak attacked me. Young Master Chun fell to the ground and vomited blood. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. However, he could no longer stand up and fight Fatso Lu. He could only let Fatso Lu insult him. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but he could not do anything to Fatso Lu. If it weren't for your unlucky father, I would have killed you today. After Fatso Lu scolded him, he still did not feel good. He punched and kicked him again. After a while, he calmed down. He looked at the outer courtyard with a complicated expression. He was still worried. Hurry up and hide. The Dingai will be here soon. The Chun family won't be able to hold on for long. While Fatso Lu was looking around, Fang Yu had already walked out of the pavilion and said to Fatso Lu, "Don't worry." In the square outside, most of the Chun family members were dead. The 2 martial emperors would be here soon. Master, how did you get here? When Fatso Lu saw Fang Yu, he was pleasantly surprised. The gloomy expression on his face disappeared completely. He looked like he was saved, and he was excited. He knew how much Fang Yu's peerless elixir had brought him. At such a young age, Fatso Lu was full of admiration for Fang Yu. He was able to refine an elixir of this grade. Now that they met in such a way, he felt an indescribable feeling. Let's talk later. It's not safe here. Fatty Lu's face lit up with joy. Just as he was about to continue cheering, Fang Yu stopped him. He waved his hand and signaled Fatso Lu to leave first. Master, come with me. Fatso Lu wasn't a fool. He didn't hesitate any longer and dragged young Master Chun into the depths of the backyard. The backyard of the Lu family was divided into 5 areas. It was ridiculously big. At the end of the depths was the beginning of the second area. Fatso Lu led Fang Yu into a room in the second area. After locking the door, he heaved a sigh of relief. That's enough. Without anyone leading the way, they definitely won't be able to find their way here. Fatso Lu was sweating profusely. His body sank and he sat down on the stool. After a long time, he finally remembered to greet Fang Yu. Master, when did you arrive? Fatso Lu quickly poured a cup of tea and asked Fang Yu to sit down. It's been a while. Fang Yu shrugged. This a while was indeed a little long. It's my family's misfortune, I've let you see a joke. Fatso Lu poured the tea while looking at Fang Yu with a wry smile. If I had known that you were coming, I would have definitely gone to welcome you. All right, I'm not in the mood to care about your family's matters. The effect of the pill last time was pretty good, right? Fang Yu interrupted Fatso Lu impatiently and went straight to the point. The effect of a peerless medicinal pill is ridiculously good. At the mention of the peerless elixir pill, Fatso Lu's eyes flashed with excitement. He did not hide anything and said directly, "Ever since I took the peerless elixir pill from the master, my aura has become much purer. My cultivation level has also increased by a small level. During this period of time, his cultivation was also getting twice the results with half the effort. His cultivation speed was extraordinarily fast. It won't be long before I step into the martial emperor realm." Fatso Lu said excitedly. Looking at Fang Yu, he could not help but praise, "Master, you're really an expert." In front of Fang Yu, Fatso Lu naturally got rid of his cunning personality and spoke sincerely. His reaction was naturally within Fang Yu's expectations. Fang Yu looked at Fatso Lu with a smile and asked, "Then, what you said last time, does it still count?" "Yes, of course it counts. 10,000 crystals are not many, I'll take as many as you have." Fatso Lu quickly nodded and repeated what he said last time, afraid that he would offend Fang Yu. After saying that, he was slightly stunned. His eyes darkened as if he had thought of something. Instantly, he opened his eyes wide and stared at Fang Yu. "Master, don't tell me you've refined another peerless elixir pill?" When he said this, excitement flashed across his face. It had only been less than half a year since Fang Yu had sold the peerless elixir pill. Within half a year, Fang Yu had refined another peerless elixir pill? This surprised Fatso Lu a little. He stared at Fang Yu with a burning gaze, as if waiting for Fang Yu's confirmation. Of course, Fang Yu did not disappoint him. He slowly took out 2 inconspicuous small porcelain bottles and opened the lids one by one. The 2 small porcelain bottles were filled with the faint fragrance of elixirs. After seeing the elixirs in the 2 small porcelain bottles, Fatso Lu could not remain calm. 2 peerless elixir pills. Master, you're really a god. In the entire Mirage Sea City, which alchemist can take out 2 peerless elixir pills at once? Fatso Lu was surprised, but he kept flattering Fang Yu. Naturally, Fang Yu did not want to listen to Fatso Lu's endless chatter. He waved his hand and interrupted him, saying slowly, 2 peerless elixir pills for 20,000 crystals, no problem, right? No problem, of course, no problem. Fatso Lu's eyes were shining. He looked at the peerless elixir pills in the small porcelain bottles and almost drooled. He nodded vigorously. Then, as if he suddenly remembered something, he looked uncomfortable. "Well, Master, you know the situation outside my house now. I really can't go to the bank. Why don't you come and get it later?" Fatso Lu was extremely embarrassed. He was afraid that Fang Yu would go back on his word. After he finished speaking, he added, "Don't worry, I won't let you wait in vain. I'll pay you an extra 1,000 crystals." These words were said very straightforwardly. However, Fang Yu did not feel anything in his heart. These 2 peerless elixir pills were indeed worth the price. After thinking about it, he originally wanted to agree to Fatso Lu's request. However, on second thought, this wait would probably take a few days. The matter of the Lu family being besieged by the Ding family and the Chun family this time was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. It would probably take a lot of time to resolve it. Fang Yu did not have much time to wait foolishly now. "How about this?" After thinking about it, Fang Yu slowly spoke. Placing a cup of tea on the table, Fang Yu looked at Fatso Lu and said, "I want 21,000 crystals today. As for the people outside, I'll help you deal with them." Fang Yu said it casually as if this was just a casual matter and not a big deal. "Really?" Fatso Lu frowned. He had some doubts in his heart, but he did not say it out loud. After all, the few experts of the Lu family were no match for the Ding family. Judging from Fang Yu's strength, he was not very strong. After all, his attainments in alchemy were so high. His cultivation would definitely not be very high. This was a common problem for alchemists. There was no alchemist whose strength was very strong. Chapter 679. He was still a little worried. Fatso Lu began to hesitate. However, it was obvious that he had misjudged this time. Fang Yu already had 100% confidence in his heart. Earlier, when he was watching the battle in the backyard, Fang Yu had a thorough understanding of the Ding family's strength. If the Ding and Chun families joined forces, it would indeed be difficult to deal with them. However, the 2 families had fallen out and were fighting for themselves. They were even killing each other. By now, the outcome had been decided. Most of the people brought by the Chun family had already died. Now, only the people from the Ding family were left. Among those people, there were only two martial royal realm powerhouses from Shire State. Those two people were of average talent. They had probably just stepped into the martial emperor realm not long ago and were already showing off. With their strength, they might not even be able to deal with the guards of the Song family in Quicksand City of Shire State. Although there was a difference of one realm, Fong Yu had been in the martial king realm for a long time. His realm was very stable. In addition, he had the main body of the Sin throne. It was not the first time that he had crossed realms to fight with martial emperors. He could even take down a peak martial emperor if he fought with his life on the line. However, it would not be so difficult to deal with these two guys. Master, if you can take care of that idiot Ding outside, I'll give you an extra 2,000 crystals. Although Fatso Lu was still worried, he did not say anything when he saw the confidence in Fong Yu's eyes. He seemed to have a card up his sleeve. After all, Fong Yu's attainments in alchemy were very high. In Fatso Lu's heart, he was almost deified. It's a deal. Seeing that Fatso Lu was so forthright, Fong Yu naturally did not want to say anything more. After tying up young Master Chun, who was on the verge of death, Fatso Lu brought Fong Yu out of the second courtyard. In front of them was the first courtyard of the inner yard. At this moment it was surrounded by two auras. They were the two experts from Shire State. At this moment, the two of them had already taken care of the Chun family's followers in the outer yard. At this moment they were looking for Fatso Lu's whereabouts. What deep grudge do you have with this guy? Fong Yu asked Fatso Lu as he released his perception and tried to find the traces of the two powerhouses. Actually, there's no grudge. Fatso Lu scratched his head and intentionally avoided Fong Yu's gaze. There was a hint of awkwardness on his face. This scene was firmly captured by Fong Yu. He could tell that the matter was definitely not as simple as Fatso Lu said. Oh? Since there is no enmity between us, why would he take such a huge risk to come to your Lu family and cause trouble? Fong Yu raised his eyebrows and looked at Fatso Lu maliciously. From the way I see it, he clearly wants to take your life. Fong Yu's words were neither salty nor light. He was not a gossipy person. He was just curious. What exactly did Fatso Lu do to deserve such revenge from Ding Qi? Sigh. There's no harm in telling you. In front of Fong Yu, Fatso Lu couldn't hide his thoughts at all. He simply gritted his teeth and told the truth. A few years ago, the family of Idiot Ding's old flame held a martial arts competition for her to find a spouse. The winner would be able to marry his old sweetheart. Originally, Idiot Ding had dominated the arena by himself and had beaten away many people. The remaining people were also afraid of his Ding family's power and didn't dare to challenge him easily. Originally, he was about to get married with his old flame. However, I didn't know that it was a martial arts competition. I only thought that it was a simple competition in the arena. Idiot Ding flaunted his power in the arena. Others didn't dare to provoke him, but I wanted to. In the end, Idiot Ding lost. At this point, Fatso Lu stopped and didn't have the intention to continue speaking. He already knew what happened after without thinking. Fatso Lu was obviously snatching someone's love. He didn't expect that what Fong Yu casually muttered earlier would become true. No wonder that Ding Qi would be so crazy. But I didn't agree to that marriage. Seeing the strange expression on Fong Yu's face, Fatso Lu hurriedly waved his hand to defend himself. A gentleman doesn't snatch someone else's love. This is the rule. Although I won the arena, I rejected the marriage proposal. Originally, it was fine if I rejected it, but who knew that his old flame's family was thin-skinned? They thought that I didn't like them, so the family moved out of Mirage Sea City overnight. In the end, they accidentally got into an accident after leaving Mirage Sea City. When they found out, the family of 3 had already exploded in the wilderness, When Fatso Lu said this, there was a hint of helplessness in his eyes. Looking at his expression, it seemed that he was blaming himself for this matter. Fang Yu was a little surprised. This fatty looked sinister and cunning, but he didn't expect him to have such a kind side. He wanted to tease him, but suddenly, an aura directly appeared and locked onto the two of them. It was the two powerhouses from Sierzu. They had already discovered Fang Yu and Fatso Lu's traces. What should we do? Fatso Lu naturally sensed the menacing aura. Frowning, he looked at Fang Yu and asked, "Let them come." Fang Yu waved his hand, indicating for Fatso Lu to calm down. A moment later, a few figures slowly appeared in front of Fang Yu. The leader was the unlucky Ding Qi. Behind him, there were a few followers. As for the two powerhouses from Sierzu, they had already surrounded Fang Yu and Fatso Lu. "Young Master Chen really has a hole in his head to believe your words." Ding Qi looked at Fatso Lu and snorted coldly. Needless to say, young Master Chen, who had carried Fatso Lu in just now, was probably dead. "Humph," Fatso Lu snorted coldly and didn't say much. "I was wondering why you still dared to come, so you've found a helper." Ding Qi looked at Fatso Lu with a smile, then his gaze landed on Fang Yu. After a casual glance, a look of disdain appeared on his face. "A mere martial king dares to come here to court death?" Ding Qi snorted coldly, and his tone instantly became gloomy. He pointed at Fang Yu and said, "I'll give you 3 breaths of time to get out and I'll spare your life." 3 breaths of time is too short. Fang Yu shook his head without any expression on his face. "You," Ding Qi glared at Fang Yu with a fierce look. "Since you're courting death, then don't blame me. Go, leave no one alive." He roared and waved at the two powerhouses from Sierzu. The two of them didn't hesitate, and the aura on their bodies burst out without any concealment. Boom, 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 waves of scorching heat enveloped Fang Yu and Fatso Lu. Then, the burning sensation suddenly became more intense. Whoosh, 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 fiery red swords appeared in their hands at the same time. The swords looked like they had just come out of a furnace, and they were surrounded by raging flames. The flames turned into a spot of light in the air. The targets were Fang Yu and Fatso Lu. Chapter 680. Steel Blazing Sun. This was an upper-class technique. Fang Yu had seen it in the main hall of the Celestial Chance Institute. However, he didn't know how these two powerhouses from Shire had learned it. This upper-class technique was violent, barbaric, and unreasonable. The flames burned. After turning into light spots, they instantly condensed into balls of fire the size of bowls. At this moment, the burning sensation around Fang Yu and Fatso Lu was even more intense. It was as if they were in the middle of a volcano. "Master, be careful!" Fatso Lu's face was filled with fear as he shouted. This was the full blow of two powerhouses at the peak of the martial emperor realm. However, the moment he shouted, Fang Yu had already disappeared from where he was. Any speed was nothing in front of the soaring dragon technique. Fang Yu activated the genuine qi in his body and used the soaring dragon technique. The moment he disappeared from where he was, the heavenly will swimming dragon technique had already made his move. Dense fist shadows condensed in the air. The moment they condensed, the changing power of the ultimacy swept through this space. Then, the fist shadows condensed into a long dragon in midair. The long dragon rushed out and swam among the tongues of fire. Seeing the long dragon, the light of the tongues of fire instantly dimmed. Its speed also slowed down. Fang Yu had no intention of holding back. He activated the spiritual qi in his body, and the long dragon flew out. In the dense flames, it was like the god of death from hell, madly devouring. In an instant, the fireballs in this space were completely devoured by the long dragon. Fang Yu's figure had already appeared in front of the two powerhouses. In midair, his fists condensed a violent power and blasted toward the two powerhouses' faces. Their reactions weren't slow. After all, they were powerhouses at the martial emperor realm. The moment Fang Yu's figure arrived, the two of them had already condensed a twisting power and collided with Fang Yu's fists. Bam! The moment the two forces collided, there was an earth-shattering sound. The power of the two martial emperors was accompanied by a twisting power. Fang Yu only felt the power in his fists slowly dissipating. This feeling was similar to the devouring power of the reincarnation profound. Startled, Fang Yu did not dare to be careless. He quickly turned around and withdrew his strength. Then, the power of the throne of evil appeared in his dantian and took over his body. A huge black shadow immediately condensed into form. The main body of the Sin throne was formed. In his dantian, the endless spiritual energy was being devoured by the nefarious throne. When the two of them saw the Sin throne, their eyes were filled with shock. However, this surprise didn't last for long. Their bodies were already controlled by the Sin throne. It was as if he had been welded to death, unable to move. What happened? While the two of them were muttering to themselves in shock, the faint smell of blood from the throne of Sin had already begun to spread. In the next second, the violent smell of blood penetrated their bodies. Rumble, in the blink of an eye, the bodies of the two had already exploded. The throne of Sin was once again filled with the smell of blood. Fang Yu frowned when he sensed the smell of blood. The Sin throne seemed to like the smell of blood. After these few battles, the evil aura of the Sin throne was increasing bit by bit. Fang Yu didn't know whether to be happy or worried about this situation. The old man had said that he had to be careful of the power of the Sin throne. Although it could be used, the consequences would be unimaginable if he lost control. However, at this moment, Fang Yu was in no mood to worry about this. After dealing with the two so-called experts from Shire, Fang Yu heaved a sigh of relief. He stared at Ding Qi and the followers behind him with a burning gaze. Wherever his gaze passed, no one dared to look directly at him. Ding Qi swallowed his saliva. Just now, the power that erupted from Fang Yu's body was too overbearing. That Sin throne, in particular, was truly terrifying. The two experts who had been invited from Shire at a high price didn't die so easily. Ding Qi began to feel uncertain. Idiot Ding, get out of here. It won't be long before the entire Lu family returns. Don't even think about getting out alive. Fatso Lu was also dumbfounded at this moment. The shock brought about by the Sin throne couldn't be dispelled for a long time. However, he wasn't a fool. Seeing that Fang Yu had taken advantage of him, he hurriedly shouted at the top of his lungs. Damn fatty, just you wait. Ding Qi's face was gloomy. He glared at Fatso Lu as if his eyes were about to spit fire. However, due to Fang Yu's aura, he could only put on an act. After throwing down these harsh words, he hurriedly left with a group of followers. Fatso Lu only heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that their figures had completely left. He sat paralyzed on the ground for a long time before coming to his senses. Master, you're really an expert. He walked to Fang Yu's side with a face full of smiles. Other than admiration, there was only respect left in his eyes. 23,000 crystals. Don't forget. Fang Yu waved his hand. He didn't want to say anything more to Fatso Lu. Looking at the scene of corpses strewn all over the square of the Lu family, Fang Yu shook his head. Clean this up first. I'll come back later to get it. After saying that, he directly left the Lu family. At this time, the Lu family was in a mess. Although Ding Qi and the others had left for the time being, there were still a lot of things to deal with. It didn't seem good for Fang Yu to be in a hurry to get the crystals now. After thinking about it, he decided to give Fatso Lu some time. Fatso Lu's face was full of smiles. He respectfully sent Fang Yu to the door. Then, he gave the name of an inn and asked Fang Yu to rest. Fang Yu naturally didn't intend to be polite with him. After finding the inn, he opened the entrance to the 8 desolate secret land. He leaped and began to cultivate in the 8 desolate secret land. In the past few days, during a series of battles, Fang Yu's physical strength had improved a lot. The injuries that he had suffered at Desolate City Mountain in Shire State had completely healed. In terms of artistic conception and physical strength, Fang Yu was already very confident. In his mind, the nebula map slowly rotated again. Fang Yu was completely silent as he began to comprehend the changes in the nebula map. In fact, after coming out of the Azure Dragon Academy, Fang Yu had always had some doubts in his heart. In the letter, he saw the scene that the powerhouse saw. He actually found a tree that even Vice Principal Wang had never seen before. That tree looked ordinary, but it gave off a very strange feeling. As long as he stopped and stared at it, it was as if he was also being stared at by the abyss. That feeling was somewhat similar to the profound meaning in the nebula map. However, the power inside was much stronger than the power in the nebula map. If Vice Principal Wang hadn't acted in time, Fang Yu might have been completely lost in the power of artistic conception at this time, facing that boundless fear forever. Therefore, at this time, when Fang Yu was comprehending the nebula map again, he already felt a little afraid in his heart. Chapter 681. In front of him was still the vast sea of stars that was constantly flowing. In the sea of stars, countless densely packed planets were rotating rapidly around a circle of light. In the process of rotation, a continuous stream of profound power was transmitted into Fang Yu's head. This power was still so obscure and profound. Even though he was staring at it from such a distance, he could still feel an unprecedented sense of oppression and suffocation. This feeling made Fang Yu very uncomfortable. But fortunately, this power did not attract Fang Yu's attention. His eyes were constantly looking at the faintly discernible profound meaning of the rotating power of reincarnation. After a while, the light spots of the profound meaning of reincarnation were transmitted into Fang Yu's body. This was a power that could really be felt and touched. It was very realistic. Fang Yu could even clearly feel the passing of time second by second. Space was changing second by second. Time was passing along with space. As for space, it changed with the passage of time. The two complemented each other. This was the power of time and space. This power was the profound meaning of reincarnation. Fang Yu suddenly reacted in his heart. It was the first time he felt this power so close. It was so real. Previously, he could only vaguely feel it. But this time, he really touched it. His body's senses had already responded. He began to become sensitive to the aura and the surrounding spiritual energy. Not far away, the spiritual grass moved slightly, and Fang Yu felt it. This feeling was very strange, but also very clear. In a moment, Fang Yu suddenly understood. From ignorance to enlightenment. In the middle, there was a thin haze. This haze was somehow broken. For the first time, Fang Yu clearly understood the profound meaning of the power. He was only at the first level of the art of enlightenment. He did not have time to exchange for it from the crystal store. However, just this one level was enough to make him feel a lot better. The moment this power entered his body, Fang Yu also felt his body relaxed for no reason. The power of conception had slowly increased. The strength of his physical body was also firm. A surge of energy instantly gushed out. 8-star Martial King. Fang Yu was dumbfounded. He could feel the strands of spirit qi swimming in his dantian, as well as the slowly expanding qi si, as well as the abundant strength in his body. Fang Yu was pleasantly surprised. Last time, she had jumped directly from a 2-star Martial King to a 4-star Martial King. That had already made her very excited. This time around, he had directly jumped from a 4-star Martial King to an 8-star Martial King. 4 whole small realms. If outsiders were to know about this, they would definitely be angered to death. This kind of speed was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare with. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Host's current realm, 8-star Martial King. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the upgrade reward. The reward has been issued. Upgrade reward, Level 2 Perception Technique. Unlocked after leveling up. Crystal Shop Intermediate Shop. A series of mechanical system prompts were transmitted into Feng Yu's head. Feng Yu was secretly delighted. This star perception technique was a good thing. Although its limitations were very high, the more one comprehended the star perception technique, the faster one's realm would increase. The nebula map was so vast that it would be difficult to comprehend anything just by relying on the first level of the star perception technique. Only by constantly improving could one comprehend more things from the nebula map. As for the intermediate crystal shop, Feng Yu only glanced at it slightly. The intermediate crystal shop was no different from the original crystal shop. It was just that the items inside had increased a lot, and their grades were higher. Of course, as its grade increased, it would require more crystals. There were a lot of new high-grade spiritual herbs and high-grade cultivation method. However, at this time, Feng Yu did not have enough crystals to exchange for them. He could only forcibly withdraw his gaze and sigh. It seemed that it was far from enough to earn crystals by refining pills. If he wanted to exchange more things from the Crystal Stone Mall and become stronger, he would need more crystal stones. However, for now, Feng Yu did not have any way to earn a large number of crystals in a short period of time. Sighing slightly, when Feng Yu withdrew his gaze, he suddenly saw an item with a very low price. He moved his gaze up. It was clearly written on it, Item Upgrade. The price of the crystals could be considered the most reasonable in the Crystal Mall. It only required 20 crystals. Throughout the entire Crystal Mall, there was not a single item that was less than 3 digits in value. What is this item upgrade? Feng Yu frowned. A strong desire to spend lingered in his heart. After thinking about it, he gritted his teeth and exchanged for it. Ding. Successfully exchanged for goods. Item upgrade. Items that can be upgraded. Dragon armor, alchemy furnace, melee weapon. Feng Yu slowly looked at the information on the upgrade inventory. There were still quite a lot of things that could be upgraded. Any weapon, as well as Feng Yu's equipment, as long as it was a worldly item, could be upgraded. The alchemy furnace was made by the alchemy saint, and it was already a peerless alchemy furnace. There was not much room for improvement, and in terms of weapons, it did not seem to be necessary. In the end, Feng Yu's gaze fell on the dragon armor. This dragon armor was a piece of supreme-grade defensive equipment. It had helped Feng Yu block countless attacks. Even if it was supreme-grade, its defensive ability was already extraordinary. What if it was upgraded? Feng Yu frowned. With a thought, he directly upgraded this item and put it all on the dragon armor. Ding. Item successfully used. Prompt. Upgraded item. Dragon armor. Level after upgrade. Supreme grade. The system's mechanical voice sounded again. Feng Yu held his breath and focused, feeling the power slowly circulating on the dragon armor. After a moment, he came back to his senses. This dragon armor was indeed extraordinary. The entire dragon armor was already incomparably solid. Compared to before, its strength had increased a lot, and it looked more dense with the naked eye. However, the disadvantage was that it had become heavier. The weight had increased by more than a little. Fortunately, Feng Yu's physical strength had increased a lot. This weight did not affect him much. These were still okay. What surprised Feng Yu the most was the crazy power flowing on the dragon armor. This power wasn't just Feng Yu's alone. When Feng Yu was in danger, he could fight to the death and release all the power on the dragon armor. This power was comparable to a full-strength attack from the throne of Sin. This would also be Feng Yu's last trump card. Once this power could not be used, Feng Yu would definitely die without a burial place. However, Feng Yu was confident that in this continent, he would not need to use the power on the dragon armor in a short period of time. The power on the dragon armor could be condensed. The longer it was, the stronger it would be. Chapter 682. Compared to before he leveled up. The power of the dragon armor was limited. Not only was it not very strong, but it could not be condensed. Last time, when he was dealing with the demon son of the demon clan in the battle of 100 people, he had used it once. It was more than enough to deal with people of the martial spirit realm. However, it was not like the Azure Dragon Academy now. Wandering outside, there were dangers everywhere. Moreover, most of them were experts of the martial emperor realm. Although Feng Yu was now an 8-star martial king, he still had to be careful and keep a low profile. Seeing that he was 2 realms away from the peak of the martial emperor realm, Feng Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Although these 2 small realms did not seem very eye-catching, for many warriors, they were insurmountable gaps. Many people might stop for 100 years just because of a small realm. However, these 2 small realms were nothing to Feng Yu. After all, in the crystal store, as long as he had enough crystal stones, he could exchange for any realm. He muttered in his heart. Unknowingly, 2 or 3 days had passed in the 8 desolate secret mirror. After coming out of the 8 desolate secret mirror, several hours had passed outside. Outside the inn, there were already people from the Liu family waiting. "Master, the young master invites you." A young man of the martial spirit realm dressed as a follower was standing respectfully outside the inn. When he saw Feng Yu come out, he was relieved. Feng Yu nodded. Fatty Liu was quite polite. He was quite polite in terms of etiquette. However, Feng Yu did not like such tedious details. He followed the follower all the way to the Liu family. At this time, in the Liu family, the corpses piled up in the square had been completely cleaned up. Many servants were cleaning the blood stains in the square. There was not the slightest ripple in the follower's eyes. He directly led Feng Yu around the square and walked to the door of a lobby. At this moment, the lobby was already bustling with noise. Everyone in the Liu family had already gathered in the main hall. In the middle of the lobby, a middle-aged man with a dignified expression sat upright. The middle-aged man looked dignified, and his entire body was emitting an imposing aura. This person should be the Liu family's patriarch, Liu Sheng. Below the main hall, several elders were seated in order. Below them were the disciples of the Liu clan. As for Fatso Liu, he was currently sitting beside the elders in the main hall. From the looks of it, his position in the family was not low. Liu Xing did not know what they were discussing. Looking from afar, Liu Xing's face was dark and uncertain. Bam! He fiercely slammed his fist on the wooden table, and a wave of gloomy coldness erupted from his eyes. "The Ding clan and Chen clan, do you intend to become enemies with us? How dare you come to my house while I'm out on business? You're really rebellious," he roared, his face full of anger. "Not only did you kill more than 10 of my guards, you even killed 2 of my elders. This wasn't over yet." His voice echoed throughout the hall for a long time. It was obvious that he was furious. The entire hall was cold and cheerless. For a moment, no one dared to speak. "Father, the Ding clan and Chen clan's patriarchs are probably unaware of this. Otherwise, they would absolutely not allow them to act rashly." After a long while, Fatso Liu slowly spoke. It was obvious that he did not seem to want to become enemies with both the Ding clan and Chen clan at the same time. Even though he had almost died, he still had the intention to side with the 2 clans. After all, Feng Yu knew in his heart that he was guilty to Ding Qi. Otherwise, he would have caused trouble for the 2 clans long ago. It's not the fault of the father. Don't tell me that they don't know. Even if they don't know, it's their fault for not teaching their son well. I must go and seek an explanation. As soon as Fatso Liu's voice fell, Liu Xing roared. It seemed that this time, he was really serious. Even if the Liu clan did not suffer any losses, this Liu Xing was obviously not someone who was easy to deal with. Patriarch, should we reconsider this matter? Yes. If we become enemies with both clans at the same time, I'm afraid that outsiders will take advantage of the situation. The atmosphere was once again oppressive for a long while before the two elders slowly spoke up. Their words were similar to Fatso Lu's. After all, in this Mirage Sea City, other than the three great clans, there were also many small clans. Over the years, because the three great clans had existed side by side and kept each other in check, the small clans did not have much room to grow. Once the three great clans made a move, the small clans might take advantage of the chaos to make some small move. Not to mention, the three great clans were all wealthy. On the surface, the Lu clan seemed to have the upper hand, but if they were to go against two great clans at the same time, they would probably suffer great losses. In the end, the other small clans might still take advantage of them. The three great clans existed side by side, and the rule of balance could not be broken. What do you all think? After the two elders spoke, Lu Xing calmed down. His gaze swept across the crowd in great tang and asked, "What the two elders said makes sense." Below, the Lu clan disciples' opinions were similar to the two elders. This surprised Lu Xing a little. Usually, they would disagree and quarrel with each other, but this time, they were surprisingly in agreement. However, this agreement was not what he wanted. He shook his head helplessly, a look of disappointment on his face. It seemed that these people were still afraid of the other clans. To put it bluntly, they were just a bunch of people who were greedy for pleasure. Father, in my opinion, if we don't fall out with them openly, it doesn't mean that we can't do it secretly. After a while, a young man slowly stood up. This person should be Fatso Lu's fourth brother. Lu Xing had a total of 7 sons, and Fatso Lu was the eldest. The remaining 6 were also in the hall. Fang Yu took a cursory glance at these people. The others were all greedy for pleasure, and their cultivation base was very low. They did not have much strength. Fatso Lu's fourth brother was the only one who kept looking around, as if he was trying to figure out Lu Xing's meaning. This guy was ambitious, and he was a little like Fatso Lu in that he was a little scheming. On the surface, this guy seemed to be a sinister and cunning person. Although Fatso Lu was the same, Fatso Lu didn't have much bad intentions. This guy was different. His eyes had always been cold. Now, he seemed to have figured out Lu Xing's meaning, so he quickly stood up and spoke. "Oh!" Sure enough, after hearing his words, Lu Xing frowned slightly, but there was still some joy in his eyes. "Do it secretly? What do you mean?" Lu Xing looked at him and asked. He knew his fourth son very well. This guy had always been clever, but he was also a little sinister and cunning. He also had a lot of tricks up his sleeve. These years, he had caused a lot of trouble for the family. But at this moment, he was still a sensible person. Chapter 683. It's very simple. The Mirage Sea City is only so big, and there are only so many businesses. In my opinion, we should start with the business first and make them have no business to do. On the other hand, the young masters and elders of their families are all pleasure seekers, and they often go to Mortal Joy. As long as we find someone to keep an eye on Mortal Joy and secretly use some tricks to make them lose some people, it's very simple. Fatso Lu's fourth brother's eyes were cold. When he said these words, he did not even blink. It seemed that this was not the first time he had done this. After hearing this, Lu Xing pondered for a while with a complicated look in his eyes. He was an open and above-board person, so he naturally disdained such despicable methods. However, these words came from his son's mouth, so he had to think twice. "Father, in my opinion, fourth brother's idea is not feasible." At this time, Fatso Lu stood up and spoke. He directly shook his head and said, "I have nothing to say about starting with the business. It's feasible. However, one must be open and above board. After all, The Ding family and the Chun family came to find trouble openly and did not do anything behind our backs. We either don't do anything, or we openly ask them for an explanation. Of course, I still think that we should not fall out with the two families for the time being. Especially, don't use those despicable methods. When he said despicable, Fatso Lu intentionally or unintentionally looked back at his fourth brother and snorted coldly. His fourth brother's face suddenly turned cold, and there was a strange aura in his eyes. It was obvious that the two of them did not get along very well. I really didn't expect you to be so magnanimous. Relatively speaking, Lu Xing was more fond of Fatso Lu. He nodded and agreed with Fatso Lu's words. However, after thinking for a while, he still frowned. But the two families killed two of my elders and almost took my son's life. How can I tolerate this? When he said this, there was an obvious look of regret on Lu Xing's face. Fang Yu could see clearly that although this kind of regret was directed at the two dead boss Zhang, in fact, his words were more concerned about Fatso Lu. To be precise, the death of the two elders was not worth him falling out with the two families. However, Fatso Lu had almost lost his life as well. That was what really made him angry. From the looks of it, Fatso Lu had a very important position in his eyes. He seemed to be very fond of his eldest son. It was no wonder that he, the patriarch of the #1 family in Fantasy Sea City, would lose his composure. Fatso Lu was his true treasure. Father, in my opinion, if we don't use force, we can use diplomacy. After all, the deaths of the two elders are true. We can ask for compensation. The two families were in the wrong, so they naturally wouldn't refuse. But if we really want to fight, then they will be justified, and this will be disadvantageous to us. When Fatso Lu saw that Lu Xing had loosened up a little, he quickly added, "Yes." After a long while, Lu Xing frowned and nodded, tacitly agreeing with Fatty Lu's statement. "You're really smart. He's much better than your brothers." After he finished speaking, he intentionally or unintentionally glared at his sons, sitting in the hall. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. "Then let's leave this matter to the third elder and the fifth elder. Don't forget to ask for as much as you can." After all, Lu Xing was a businessman, so he had some experience in this aspect. After he finished speaking, he slowly retracted his gaze from his good-for-nothing sons. The moment he retracted his gaze, he saw Fang Yu standing outside the hall. "This is?" He frowned. "Father, this is the savior I was talking about." The moment Fatso Lu saw Fang Yu, he quickly revealed a smile, and his flattery was obvious. He quickly invited Fang Yu into the hall, then said to Lu Xing, "Father, he's the one who saved me. If it wasn't for him at that time, I would have died." "Oh!" Lu Xing's brows slowly relaxed. He looked at Fang Yu, then quickly got up and put on a smile. In his eyes, there was a hint of flattery, just like Fatso Lu's. After he asked Fang Yu to sit down, he personally poured a cup of tea and said, "Master, this time, our Lu family encountered such a situation, and we have to thank you for your help." "You're welcome." Fang Yu waved his hand. One should not hit a smiling person. "Master, this time you saved our Lu family, and we have nothing to repay you with. Please state your conditions. As long as we can do it, we will do our best." Lu Xing was a straightforward person, and he knew the rules, so he immediately thanked him. Fang Yu thought about it, and naturally did not stand on ceremony with him. In the end, he directly gritted his teeth and simply threw caution to the wind. "Since you want to repay me, I won't stand on ceremony." After saying that, Fang Yu's face was a little ugly. He had never been so thick-skinned. After thinking about it, he stretched out a finger. "I want 10,000 crystals." 10,000 crystals was a little too much. However, the dazzling lineup of goods in the crystal store was too tempting. After hearing Fang Yu's words, Lu Xing suddenly frowned. Fang Yu was shocked. It did seem like he was asking for too much. After thinking about it, Fang Yu quickly said, "If it's not convenient, these crystals are borrowed from me, and I will definitely return them in the future." "No, no, no." At this moment, Lu Xing quickly reacted. He originally thought that Fang Yu would ask for more, but he did not expect that it was only 10,000 crystals. These 10,000 crystals were nothing to their Lu family. He even felt that it was a little too little. Fang Yu's conditions were really too simple, so he was a little confused. After hearing Fang Yu's words, he realized that Fang Yu had misunderstood. He quickly put on a smile and said, "It's only 10,000 crystals, how can you express your gratitude?" 50,000 crystals. Lu Xing said directly without even blinking. Fang Yu was stunned when he heard that, and subconsciously wanted to refuse. However, after thinking about it, he relented. This was someone else's kindness, and they would feel better if they accepted it. Fang Yu thought so in his heart, and then he felt relieved. Lu Xing could not wait for Fang Yu to refuse. He directly called someone to go to the bank to withdraw the money. After a while, he slowly sat down. He looked at Fang Yu with respect. "Master, according to my son, you are not only strong, but also have great attainments in alchemy?" After sitting down, Lu Xing returned to the topic. Supreme grade elixir. He had never seen it before. If Fatty Lu did not get one from Fang Yu, he would not even have heard of it. In the past few months, he had seen Fatty Lu's progress. While he sighed in his heart, he was also shocked by the effect of the supreme grade elixir. Chapter 684. Fatso Lu had jumped from a 4-star martial king to an 8-star martial king. In just a few months' time. All of this was due to the peerless elixir. However, he had never seen an alchemist who could refine peerless grade elixirs in this continent. Therefore, he had always wanted to meet Fang Yu. The first time they met, not only did he admire Fang Yu's strength, but he also admired him for being so accomplished in alchemy at such a young age. This meant that Fang Yu must have an expert guiding him. Therefore, when they met, he generously gave Fang Yu 50,000 crystals. "Patriarch Lu, you flatter me. I only know a little about alchemy, I can't be considered an alchemist." Hearing Lu Xing's flattery, Fang Yu felt a little unnatural. "You're too modest." Lu Xing chuckled and shook his head. Then, he changed the topic. "I wonder where Grandmaster is from?" Looking at Fang Yu, he asked a crucial question. "Heavenly Chance Institute." Fang Yu thought about it and did not intend to hide it. Lu Xing murmured and nodded. After thinking about it, he did not seem to have heard of the Heavenly Chance Institute. After a while, he continued, "Grandmaster's master must be an alchemist, right? I wonder if I have the fortune to meet him." Lu Xing looked at Fang Yu with a fake smile. This expression made Fang Yu feel very unnatural. This old fox was indeed cunning. He was so polite to Fang Yu because he was thinking about the person behind Fang Yu. If such an expert joined their family's strength would definitely increase greatly. However, this little scheme of his was obviously of no use. Fang Yu's real master was actually the system. Want to meet the system? Maybe in your next life, however. Fang Yu did not say it directly. After thinking for a while, he said, "Master recently went to a faraway place to handle some matters. He won't be back for a while." "That's a pity." After hearing Fang Yu's words, a look of regret flashed across Lu Xing's face. Fang Yu naturally did not care about his expression. What he was thinking about was the tens of thousands of crystals. Right. After a while, Lu Xing suddenly thought of something. He looked at Fang Yu with a strange expression. "Master, with your ability, it would be a pity for you to wander around. Why don't you come to our Lu clan? Our Lu clan will definitely treat you as an honored guest." Lu Xing's words were slowly heard. Everyone in the hall was shocked. After all, a person of Lu Xing's status had never humbled himself to invite others. All along, it had always been others who tried their best to join the Lu family. Fang Yu was the first. However, even though they were shocked, they did not object. After all, in their eyes, Fang Yu was an alchemist. Which clan didn't wish to have an alchemist in charge? Moreover, it was a master like Fang Yu. How cunning! Fang Yu secretly exclaimed in his heart. However, on the surface, he did not show it. Thank you for your kindness, but I have always been used to freedom. I don't like to be tied down. Fang Yu smiled and shook his head. His words were not too firm. It could be considered a tactful rejection. This, Master, why don't you reconsider? Come to our Lu clan, there are absolutely no rules. You can still be the same as before. You can do whatever you want. We will not interfere with your matters. As long as you have the leisure, you can occasionally refine 1 or 2 pills. Lu Xing had obviously expected Fang Yu's reaction. He had already prepared this speech. This was an olive branch. Moreover, it was their Lu clan. The meaning was obvious. As long as he had a position here, he would be able to enjoy endless glory and wealth. If he was not an idiot, he would not reject it. However, Fang Yu was an idiot. I still don't want to. Fang Yu still shook his head. He did not want to be associated with any sect or clan. This was his usual attitude. When these words were spoken, everyone in the hall was shocked. Master, please consider it carefully. That's right. Our Lu clan is not an ordinary small clan. That's right. Don't be in a hurry to answer. A few elders could no longer sit still. They also lowered their statuses and began to persuade Fang Yu to stay. Unfortunately, Fang Yu was still unmoved. No one could change his mind once he had decided on something. Fang Yu shook his head directly. Silence reigned in the hall. There was a hint of disappointment in their eyes. However, just as they were looking worried, Fang Yu slowly said, "In the future, as long as I have any peerless pills, I will sell them all to your Lu clan." That's great. When Lu Xing heard Fang Yu's words, he heaved a sigh of relief. In this way, although Fang Yu was not a member of their Lu clan, at least he would still trade with them in the future. It was still a way. All right, if the master is not willing to come, don't force him. After all, Fatso Lu knew Fang Yu well. He quickly came up to help. Since Fatso Lu had spoken, these people naturally had nothing to say. The hall was once again quiet for a moment. The 2 elders who went to the Ding clan and the Chun clan also returned. The 2 of them respectfully bowed to Lu Xing and said, "The Ding clan and the Chun clan have agreed. Each of them will compensate 200,000 crystals and apologize in person another day." After the 2 of them finished speaking, they retreated to the side. Lu Xing already had a plan in his heart. The Ding clan and the Chun clan were not stingy. This was within his expectations. However, it was a little unexpected that they would personally apologize in person. This was also good. It could be considered as turning hostility into friendship. In his eyes, 400,000 crystal stones was not a small sum. However, in Fang Yu's eyes, he was a little shocked. A total of 400,000 crystals could be exchanged for many items in the crystal store. No wonder this guy was so generous just now. The moment he opened his mouth, he offered 50,000 crystals. From the looks of it, these 50,000 crystals were nothing in his eyes. Fang Yu was already a little regretful that he did not ask for more just now. Oh right, since all of you are here this time, I have an announcement to make. While Fang Yu was still secretly regretting in his heart, Lu Xing, who was sitting in the hall, slowly opened his mouth. As soon as the words came out, the entire hall fell silent. Everyone stared at Lu Xing solemnly. It seemed that he was going to announce something very important. Sure enough, after a while, Lu Xing opened his mouth and said, "This year, there are too many strange things happening. So I have decided to bring forward the date of the clan trial. It will be in a week. At that time, all of you will have to give me some face." At this point, Lu Xing paused. After a while, he continued, this trial is not just a simple clan competition. It will also let those scheming people see the strength of our Lu clan. Let them be intimidated by us. Chapter 685. Lu Xing said the last sentence in a deep voice. The ones with ulterior motives should be the Ding clan and the Chen clan. Did you hear that? Lu Xing roared as he looked at his sons in the hall with a burning gaze. Yes, master. They did not dare to neglect, and stood up one after another. There was a look of anticipation in their eyes. Obviously, the family trial this time was different from the usual. Lu Xing wanted to establish his power. He wanted to show the other families in Fantasy Sea City that the Lu family was still the top family in Fantasy Sea City. Their position was unshakable. However, the other people's eyes were full of anticipation. Fatty Lu, on the other hand, was a little gloomy. Fang Yu saw this scene, but he did not think much about it. After all, it was the Lu family's trial, and it had nothing to do with Fang Yu. Fang Yu was not interested in the details of the Lu family's trial. He just needed to get the crystal stones and he could leave unscathed. As for whether they wanted to establish their power or not, it had nothing to do with Fang Yu at all. Lu Xing, who was in the hall, looked at Fang Yu again. Master, I wonder if you have time. Why don't you stay for a few more days and see the strength of my sons? Lu Xing's words were very respectful. Fang Yu frowned after hearing this. He did not mean anything else in this sentence. After thinking about it, he finally nodded and agreed. Good. 7 days later, the trial at Mount Yuan in the southeast of Fantasy Sea City will be held. After he finished speaking, he bade farewell to Fang Yu. Before he left, he asked an elder to arrange a place for Fang Yu. Naturally, that elder didn't say anything. He didn't dare to be negligent and led Fang Yu to a good room. After respectfully cleaning the room, he left. After a while, a few people came in with a box. In the box there were the 50,000 crystal stones that Lu Xing promised Fang Yu. In addition, there were the 23,000 crystal stones that Fatty Lu gave Fang Yu. In total, there were almost 80,000 crystal stones. There were a lot of crystal stones, and it was enough for Fang Yu to squander for a while. After closing the door, Fang Yu could not wait to open the interface of the crystal stone store. The first thing he paid attention to was his cultivation realm. 4,000 crystal stones for a small cultivation level. Because there was not much difference in the Martial King realm, there was no difference in the price of 2 small cultivation levels. Fang Yu did not hesitate to exchange for 2 small cultivation levels. 8,000 crystals were deducted in an instant. At the same time, Fang Yu's body instantly emitted an extremely violent energy. Along with this surge of energy, Fang Yu's sea of qi began to expand. It expanded several times at a speed visible to the naked eye. The rich and abundant spiritual energy from before was actually less than half full now. It was not only the change in the qi sea. Fang Yu could clearly feel that after the energy had circulated through his body, it had increased the strength of Fang Yu's entire body by a notch. The berserk energy on his fists nearly broke through his control. After a while, when the power disappeared completely and merged with the qi sea, Fang Yu could clearly feel that there was a change in his cultivation level. 1-star Martial Emperor. When the power disappeared, Fang Yu's cultivation level broke through without any suspense. There were no shackles or bottleneck. He broke through easily. The moment he broke through, Fang Yu's aura increased by several times. This was the power of a martial emperor. Feeling the power in his limbs and body, Fang Yu nodded with satisfaction. The difference between a martial emperor and a martial king was only 1 cultivation level, but the change it brought was enormous. While he was excited, a series of mechanical sounds came from the system. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current cultivation level, 1-star Martial Emperor. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The reward has been successfully issued. Leveling up reward. Unlocking the void scripture forbidden technique. High-grade crystal store, level 3 enlightenment technique. Looking at the series of words on the system panel, Fang Yu was very excited. The void scripture forbidden technique. It was needless to say how high its level was and how powerful it was. The high-grade crystal store attracted Fang Yu's attention. He looked around the mall for a while. With just a glance, Fang Yu was shocked. The crystal store had added hundreds of goods. There were cultivation methods, weapons, and defenses. This was nothing. What shocked Fang Yu the most was a button below the crystal store. Refresh. And it was free. In other words, the crystal store had changed. It would no longer refresh automatically when the time was up. In that way, Fang Yu would inadvertently miss out on a lot of goods. Moreover, when it was refreshed, it was random. Many things were useless to Fang Yu. But in this way, Fang Yu would have enough time to save enough crystal stones, exchange for the items he needed, and refresh for free. In this way, he would not miss out on anything he wanted. Moreover, in the high-grade crystal store, every item was extremely precious. Even the rarely seen purple Xian flower couldn't be ranked in the high-rank shopping center. There were also some items that Fang Yu had never even heard of. But just by looking at the power, the series of stars was enough to prove how strong they were. He was secretly delighted. He temporarily looked away from the dazzling array of goods in the crystal store and finally focused on the level 3 enlightenment technique. How much could a level 3 enlightenment technique be comprehended in the nebula map? Fang Yu really wanted to know. The huge ancient chess game slowly appeared in his mind. After a while, it turned into a vast and flowing nebula map. When the nebula map slowly appeared, Fang Yu began to hold his breath and concentrate. He was inexplicably excited. Dong dong dong. However, at this moment, an extremely discordant tone abruptly interrupted Fang Yu. Outside the door, a black figure stood. His body was very big. Fang Yu recognized this figure. It was Fatso Lu. What's the matter? Fang Yu opened the door somewhat speechlessly. Standing outside the door was Fatso Lu with a worried look. During the day, in the lobby, Fang Yu had already seen the strange look on his face. At this moment, he came to the door again. Obviously, he had something to ask. Master, I want to ask you for a favor. Fatso Lu did not stand on ceremony. He slowly walked into the room and said with a troubled look, What favor? Fang Yu raised his eyebrows and asked. Something that could make Fatso Lu so worried obviously was not a small matter. Fang Yu really did not want to care, but Fatso Lu had already come to the door. There was no reason to refuse. Chapter 686. It's about the family trial this week. After Fatso Lu walked into the house, his face was still conflicted as he looked at Fang Yu and said slowly, Family trial? Fang Yu furrowed his brows again and shook his head nonchalantly. Fang Yu didn't know what the Lu family's family trial was about. However, Fang Yu did know that those who could participate in the family trial were all disciples of the Lu family, which was Lu Xing's 7 sons. With his 7 sons participating in the trial at the same time, the content of the trial would definitely not be very bloody. At least, it wouldn't kill anyone. At least, it wouldn't be as cruel and bloody as the cannibalization competition. Since that was the case, Fatso Lu's strength wasn't low. Although he wasn't the first among his brothers, he was still in the top 3. Without a bloody trial, his strength was obviously enough. Therefore, Fang Yu really didn't know why he was worried. With your strength, are you afraid that you can't pass? After thinking for a while, Fang Yu looked at Fatso Lu and said, Not this. Sure enough, Fatso Lu shook his head directly. After holding it in for a while, he continued, You don't know that in our family trial, other than the normal martial arts competition, we also have to go to Mount Yuan. When he mentioned Mount Yuan, The expression on Fatso Lu's face was obviously not good, and there seemed to be some fear. Mount Yuan? Is it very dangerous? Fang Yu raised his eyebrows and asked. Logically speaking, the Lu family's family trial wouldn't be arranged in such a dangerous mountain range. The place chosen should be a place where some low-level spirit beasts were entrenched. However, from Fatso Lu's eyes, Fang Yu saw that it wasn't simple. It's not very dangerous. Fatso Lu shook his head directly and said, but the last item of the trial is to find a spirit bird bone in the cave where the spirit bird beast is entrenched. When Fatso Lu said this, the worry on his face became even more obvious. Spirit bird bone? Hearing this, Fang Yu was slightly stunned. In his heart, he roughly understood why Fatso Lu was so distressed. Spiritual bird beasts belonged to the avian family. However, the difference between them and the birds was that they evolved in a very strange way. Spiritual bird beasts had a 10-year cycle and could survive for about 10 cycles in total. And in this period, it was roughly divided into 3 stages. The first stage was to transform the bones. Ossification was somewhat similar to the molting of spirit snake. 3 years after the birth of a spirit bird was the first stage, which was the adulthood stage. Only a spirit bird that had melted its bones could be considered an adult. It was as if he had been reborn. However, this spiritual bird beast was different from other beasts. Their way of becoming skeletons was somewhat special. It didn't fall off naturally. Instead, it was torn out alive. Between the same kind, especially brothers and sisters, they were even more ferocious. His mouth was not soft at all. That sharp, blade-like beak directly pierced into his body, tearing apart his bones and tearing them out. Those who were lucky would still survive. Furthermore, new bones were born. However, most of them would die on the spot. Therefore, any spiritual bird beast that had reached adulthood and passed the first stage of the first phase could be considered a miracle of life. Not only was he lucky, but his combat prowess was also astonishing. However, the spiritual bird beasts were very intelligent. The bones that were torn out would be kept by them as a warning to themselves. Thus, it could be said that their bones were extremely precious. They were akin to treasures. Taking the bones from them was tantamount to taking honey from a beehive. There were ways to get honey from a beehive. However, it was not easy to take the bones from the spiritual bird beast. Although Fatso Lu was very strong, it was simply impossible for him to take away the beast bone alone. It was no wonder that he had a worried look on his face. However, to Fang Yu's surprise, this was a trial. This was just a trial for their family. Why would there be such a dangerous thing? Could it be that Lu Xing was not afraid that his sons would not return? Your father is really good at coming up with questions. Fang Yu smiled helplessly. After understanding Fatso Lu's pain, he didn't say much. After all, this was also a test of strength. However, there was still one thing that Fang Yu couldn't figure out. Why would Fatso Lu, who was so strong, be so worried? As for his brothers, some of them weren't even half as strong as him, yet they seemed to be fearless and even looked forward to it. Could it be that they had some confidence? Fang Yu thought in his heart. He really couldn't figure it out. Finally, he looked at Fatso Lu. Fatso Lu didn't intend to hide anything. He said directly, "My father naturally wouldn't come up with such a dangerous question. Since he came up with it, he must have a plan." After saying that, he shook his head and continued, "In the entire trial, only taking the bones is more troublesome. However, there is a rule that everyone can find a helper. In other words, they can all find someone to help them." Fang Yu suddenly realized when he heard this. Lu Xing was not a fool. Naturally, he wouldn't let his sons take the risk. If they could find someone to help, it was obviously not difficult to find a powerful person to take the bones. After all, their strength was not high, but the strength of those elders was not low. It was not complicated for them to take action. "That's right." Fatso Lu nodded and said, "On the surface they are taking the bones, but in reality, They have the help of the elders behind them. Those elders are very powerful. They don't even need to do anything. The elders can easily take it back. To them, it is naturally not troublesome. When Fatso Lu said this, the bitter expression on his face deepened. Can't you just find an elder to help you? Fang Yu was a little speechless. Was there a need to say more about such a simple matter? However, Fatso Lu shook his head directly. Our family, on the surface, seems united, but in reality, it has been divided into several groups in private. Behind each of them is an elder. As for those elders, they were equivalent to their masters. How could their masters help outsiders? Don't tell me you don't have what they have. Fang Yu frowned. It was obvious that Lu Xing valued Fatso Lu and would not treat him badly. My two masters are the two elders who died. After Fang Yu finished speaking, Fatso Lu spoke slowly. He sounded a little disappointed. Not only was he disappointed by the deaths of the two elders, but he was also worried about his future. In the future, without the help of the elders behind him, Fatso Lu's status in the Lu family would become very low. There was even the risk of losing his life at any time, and this trial was the first small problem caused by not having the support of the strong. That was all. No wonder, Fang Yu muttered in his heart. No wonder at that time in the square, those two elders tried their best to get Fatso Lu to run out, but Fatso Lu refused no matter what. Chapter 687. Once the two of them died, Fatso Lu would no longer have any powerhouses to help him in the Lu family. Naturally, no one would be his helper in this family trial. No wonder Fatso Lu would be so miserable. So the reason why you came to me is? Frowning, Fang Yu looked at Fatso Lu and asked. In his heart, he had already guessed most of it. At this time, Fatso Lu was already alone. He had no backup. As for Fang Yu, he was his only hope. His purpose for coming to Fang Yu was very obvious. He wanted Fang Yu to be his helper this time. There's still a week until the family trial. In this week, I won't have time to find a helper, so I want to ask Master. Fatso Lu's face was even more bitter. He looked at Fang Yu and said, I don't know if Master is willing. No. As soon as Fatso Lu's words came out, Fang Yu coldly refused. It was not because he was heartless. After all, this was their Lu family's business. Fang Yu did not want to interfere. Lu Xing only invited Fang Yu to watch as a VIP. He had no other intentions. Moreover, Fatso Lu's younger brothers were all not easy to deal with. If Fang Yu rashly made a move, he was afraid that he would offend those villains. Especially Fatso Lu's fourth brother. Not only was he sinister and cunning, he was also very evil. Offending them would not end well. Master, please think about it. As expected, when Fatso Lu heard Fang Yu's resolute tone, he immediately pulled a long face and looked like he was about to die. No need to think about it, there's no room for discussion. Fang Yu waved his hand, indicating that Fatso Lu could leave. Now, he only had the nebula map in his mind. 20,000 crystals. As long as you are willing to help me, I will give you another 20,000 crystals. Seeing that Fang Yu was about to drive him away, Fatso Lu was pushed to the door and suddenly stretched out 2 fingers. Grandmaster, I know you're in need of crystals. As long as you are willing to help me this time, I will give you 20,000 crystal stones in one go. Really? Fang Yu, who was about to close the door and send the guests off, was stunned when he heard Fatso Lu's words. 20,000 crystals. It was truly tempting. I, Fatty Lu, will never go back on my word. 20,000 crystals, not one less. Seeing that Fang Yu had relented, Fatso Lu's face lit up with joy as he hurriedly replied. All right then. After pondering for a while, Fang Yu slowly nodded. But I'll make it clear. I'll only help you retrieve the beast bones. Everything else has nothing to do with me. After thinking about it, Fang Yu added. No problem, as long as Grandmaster is willing to help. Fatso Lu's mournful face finally returned to normal, and there was even a hint of joy at the corners of his mouth. Now that Fang Yu was willing to make a move, he was almost certain that he would succeed this time. After all, he had seen Fang Yu's strength before. It was not difficult for him to challenge two martial emperors by himself. Moreover, judging from Fang Yu's aura, it seemed that he had improved a lot. This made Fatso Lu a little shocked. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to ask. After bowing respectfully to Fang Yu, Fatso Lu slowly walked away. As for Fang Yu, he was already a little excited. This trip seemed to be very profitable. A total of more than 70,000 crystals. After deducting the crystals that he had spent, he still had 70,000 crystals. In addition to the 20,000 crystals that Fatso Lu gave him, more than 90,000 crystals were enough to exchange for many realms. After thinking about it, Fang Yu opened the crystal store again. He looked at the items that could be exchanged. Cultivation realms could not be exchanged for the time being. The next time he could exchange for them would be 7 days later. Somewhat confused, Fang Yu opened the system attribute panel and looked for a long time before he came to his senses. Cultivation realms were not something that could be exchanged with money. The upper limit of each exchange for cultivation realms was 2 small realms. After each exchange, the next exchange period would be 7 days apart. He did not know why the system was like this. However, Fang Yu was not very worried in these 7 days. Even if the exchange period was 1 month apart, it would only take a year to advance by a large realm. Advancing by a major realm in a year sounded like a terrifying thing. Other warriors might not be able to advance by a small realm even after 8 to 10 years. Fang Yu sighed in his heart. Perhaps this was the charm of the system. His gaze reluctantly moved away from the crystal store. Fang Yu did not dare to continue looking, because the dazzling array of goods in the store was really attractive to Fang Yu. Fang Yu couldn't help but have the urge and desire to spend some of the top-notch cultivation technique. Fang Yu could only forcefully suppress this desire. After all, the further he went, the more crystals he would need to exchange for realms. 90,000 crystals seemed to be a lot, but in fact, if he really exchanged them, it would be consumed very quickly. At most, after a few small realms, there would not be much left. Therefore, no matter what, now was not the time to be extravagant. Slowly retracting the system, Fang Yu originally planned to look at the changes in the nebula map. However, after thinking about it, this was the Lu family. There were many elders and powerhouses here. Their sense of smell was very sharp. If Fang Yu used the spatial cultivation technique of the 8 desolate mystic realm here, he would be easily discovered by those old fellows. After thinking about it, he still endured it. After all, the nebula map was in his mind. It could not run away at any time. The remaining few days passed very quickly. Fang Yu had been focused on cultivating. While stabilizing his aura, he tried to improve the strength of his physical body. However, after trying for a few days, there was not much improvement. In terms of realm, without the support of abundant spiritual energy, it was difficult to continue to break through. After all, this was not the space of the 8 desolate mystic realm, and his physical body was not particularly stable. He still needed to continue to fight and gain experience. Fortunately, this time, he agreed to participate in the trial with Fatty Lu. In this way, he would have a chance to strengthen his physical body. In the crystal store, there was a cultivation technique to strengthen the physical body. However, after seeing the price, Fang Yu decisively gave up. Although his realm improved very quickly, the disadvantage was that the strength of his physical body could not keep up. However, as Fang Yu continued to fight, he could slowly strengthen himself. This was a gradual process, so he could not rush it. If he was rich, Fang Yu did not mind exchanging for the cultivation technique that was worth 10,000 crystals. In this way, in the future, He would not have to worry about his physical strength not being able to keep up if his cultivation realm improved too quickly. During the few days he stayed in the Lu family, Fang Yu did not improve much. During this period, Fatty Lu came over a few times. From his words, it seemed that he wanted Fang Yu to refine a peerless grade pill. After thinking about it, Fang Yu still refused. The rarer something was, the more precious it was. If there were too many peerless grade pills in a short period of time, it would be equivalent to cutting off his own path to wealth. Fang Yu wanted to rely on quality, not quantity. Chapter 688. After all, Fang Yu had paid a hefty price for the ingredients and the cauldron used to refine the peerless elixir. Once the price dropped, it was definitely not good news for Fang Yu. He did not want to do some thankless things in the future. Fatso Lu was a smart man and very tactful. Seeing Fang Yu refuse, he did not continue to say anything. Although they did not spend much time together these few days, he knew Fang Yu's temper in his heart. If things went wrong, he would just quit. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Lu family's clan trial had officially begun. When Fang Yu walked out of the house, the Lu family was already bustling with noise and excitement. Many people had already gathered in the square in the front yard. The leader was Fatso Lu. Behind him were his several younger brothers. At this time, a ring had been set up in the square. The ring was incomparably huge, somewhat similar to the nibble competition. However, this ring was destined to not erupt with any bloodshed. And at the back of the ring, the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Xing, and a group of elders had already sat down, looking down at every movement in the ring. The Lu family's followers started to line up like a snake from the door at this time. Looking at their vigilant expressions, Fang Yu only figured it out after a long time. It turned out that the Lu family's ring competition was open to outsiders. Everyone could go on the ring and challenge Lu Xing's 7 sons. It only required 1 crystal as an entrance fee. After entering the ring, as long as one could defeat any one of Lu Xing's 7 sons, he could get back the entrance fee and earn an additional 3 crystals. If he could defeat 2, he would get 10 crystals directly. If he could defeat more than 5, he would get 100 crystals. If he could defeat all 5 of his sons directly, he would be rewarded with 1,000 crystals directly. 1,000 crystals was still somewhat tempting. However, over the years, many people had paid the entrance fee. However, those who could defeat one of Lu Xing's sons and get back this 1 crystal entrance fee were few and far between. In other words, this business was just a pie painted by Lu Xing for outsiders. Ordinary people simply did not have the appetite to eat it. Therefore, all these years, Lu Xing had been making steady profits. Occasionally, 1 or 2 of his sons would be defeated, but no one could take them all down in one go. As for Lu Xing, he could only take out 10 crystals at most. Looking at the average strength of Lu Xing's sons, Fang Yu felt somewhat restless. However, due to his thin skin, he thought about it and decided to forget about it. "Master, why are you still standing there? Please take a seat." With his sharp eyes, Lu Xing immediately spotted Fang Yu standing in the crowd. He hurried over personally and welcomed Fang Yu to a chair on the high platform. Looking down from above, he had a panoramic view of the entire arena. It had to be said that sitting in this position was like an expert looking down on ants, and it felt like he was looking down on all living beings. As soon as he sat down, a follower of the Lu clan came over and poured a cup of tea for Fang Yu. While Lin Mingyao was chatting happily with Lu Xing, the Lu family's courtyard was already open to outsiders. Sitting in this position, Fang Yu could clearly see the situation outside. As expected, at this time, outside the Lu clan's gate, there was already a long line from the entrance to the alley. The dense crowd, under the guidance of the Lu clan's guards, all walked into the empty square in the front yard. In just an hour, The incomparably huge and spacious square was densely packed with people. Almost half of the entire Fantasy Sea City's people came. Among these people, there was no lack of tyrannical aura and strong physique. It seemed that they had already prepared the entrance fee and wanted to make a windfall in this arena. Of course, more people came to watch the show. Not only Fantasy Sea City, but almost all the people in the city were the same. As long as there was a show to watch, there would be a lot of people gathered. But this time, Fang Yu did not have to squeeze into the crowd, but sat on the high platform. Below, more and more people gathered. Even with the Lu clan's vast 1,000 courtyard, it seemed that it could no longer accommodate such a large number of people. However, although there were a lot of people, it was still considered a small number. It could be seen that most of them were still afraid of the Lu clan and absolutely did not dare to make trouble here. It's almost time, let's start. When Fang Yu was looking at the crowd, Lu Xing, who was sitting next to him, ordered an elder behind him. The elder nodded in understanding. He then turned around and transmitted a message to the fifth elder, who was on the square. The fifth elder slowly walked up the ring, glanced around the crowd, and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, thank you for coming to watch our Lu clan's trial. This trial is also divided into 4 rounds. The first round is a competition of the Lu clan's alchemy skills. The second round is also a mounted archery competition. The third round is a round that everyone can participate in, the arena competition. The fourth round is the trial of a Yuan mountain." After the fifth elder finished speaking, he did not forget to explain to the crowd, "There is no other reason why this trial was brought forward. Please don't make wild guesses." After he finished speaking, he slowly walked down the arena. Fang Yu, who was sitting on the high platform, snorted coldly in his heart. It would be a lie to say that there was no other reason. The reason why Lu Xing could not wait was largely related to the Ding clan and the Chen clan. In the dense crowd below, there were definitely spies of the Ding clan and the Chen clan. Not only these 2 clans, but other clans must have people mixed in with them. Lu Xing did this just to show off the strength and momentum of the Lu clan. While muttering in his heart, dozens of Lu clan's followers had already placed the alchemy furnace on the ring. The alchemy furnace's grade was very low, but in the Mirage Sea City, it was considered high grade. The spiritual herbs used for alchemy were all mid-grade spiritual herbs. This kind of spiritual herb was nothing in Fang Yu's eyes. After all, any spiritual herb in the 8 desolate secret land was of a much higher grade than this. While Fang Yu was thinking in his heart, the fifth elder had already shouted the start of the trial. Lu Xing's sons were already standing next to the alchemy furnace. The rules of the alchemy competition were exactly the same as Fang Yu's competition last time. The time it took for an incense stick to burn. Whoever had the highest grade of pill would win. However, the spiritual herbs they used were all the same, so it was considered fair. Unlike Fang Yu, who had used the lowest grade spirit herbs in the nibble competition, Fang Yu had used the lowest grade spirit herbs. However, the essence of alchemy was not the spiritual herbs, but the time. If one was not a professional alchemist, in the time it took for an incense stick to burn, not to mention the grade of the pill, to be able to condense the pill was already outstanding. In the previous nibbling competition, the disciples of Firecloud Hall had clearly come prepared. Therefore, the alchemy process was so smooth. Chapter 689. This time, in the same time and under the same fair circumstances, no one knew who would win. Fang Yu's gaze was already fixed on the arena. The time it took for an incense stick to burn was not long. At this time, the incense was already burning. Lu Xing's 7 sons also began to get busy. Qi, smoke the herbs, put them in the pot, start the fire, everything seemed to be in order. However, Fang Yu could clearly see that these people's techniques were slightly clumsy. In the process of being in a hurry, The spirit herbs lost their spirit chi even before they were put into the pot. Fortunately, there was no limit to the number of spirit herbs used in the process of refining pills. After some adjustments, it was considered to be on the right track. After looking around, these people were too clumsy. Fang Yu looked at Fatso Lu. Although this guy's technique was not very skillful, his breathing was stable and his face was calm. He was not in a hurry. Everything was done according to the order, neither too fast nor too slow. It was not bad. If they continued in this way, it would not be a problem to refine pills if there were no accident. As for whether they could refine pills of average quality, it was somewhat unlikely. Master, what do you think of my son's refining techniques? Lu Xing sat at the side and began to talk and laugh with Fang Yu. He had been learning business since he was young. In terms of cultivation, he was not very high. Naturally, he knew nothing about refining pills. Seeing that his sons were doing well, he could not help but look at Fang Yu and ask. After all, at this time, Fang Yu was a professional alchemist in his eyes. Moreover, his attainments in refining pills were extremely high. It was naturally not a problem to ask Fang Yu about this kind of question. It's okay. But that fatty is better. Fang Yu shrugged and said helplessly. Although this was half true and half false, this was the way to deal with people. That's good. After hearing this, Lu Xing nodded in satisfaction. I also think that boss is good. As he spoke, a trace of relief flashed in his eyes. It was obvious that he was biased towards Fatso Lu. Fang Yu didn't say much. After all, Fang Yu didn't want to ask too much about anything related to the sect and family. This was also the reason why no one had bothered Fang Yu so far. Caution is the parent of safety. Fang Yu continued to size up Fatso Lu and the others in the ring. At this moment, Fatso Lu still had a calm expression on his face. However, his forehead was already covered in cold sweat. It looked like the pill was about to be formed. This was a crucial process that could not be disturbed by any external forces. The aura had to be pure and there could not be any deviation. Otherwise, he would lose everything. Grandmaster, do you think my eldest son will be successful in the path of alchemy in the future? As Fang Yu was engrossed in watching, Lu Xing asked again. He didn't seem to have any interest in alchemy, and couldn't see who was winning or losing in the current situation. Instead, he continued to beat around the bush beside Fang Yu. Cultivation is not only about talent, it is also inseparable from one's own efforts. Fatso is a material for cultivation, and he works very hard. If you walk down a path to the end, you will definitely have achievement. Why make a sudden turn? Fang Yu smiled slightly. His words were already hinting at Lu Xing. This old fox was obviously up to no good. Since he couldn't rope in Fang Yu, he wanted Fatso Lu to learn alchemy from Fang Yu. Fang Yu wasn't good at alchemy. He was just following the alchemy chapter of the Void Ceremony. Accept a disciple? Obviously not possible. However, he didn't want to make it too clear. Lu Xing was a smart person and would definitely understand the meaning behind his words. Thank you for your guidance, Grandmaster. Fang Yu had already made his decision. Lu Xing bowed respectfully and didn't continue. Boom! At this time, there was a low muffled sound in the arena. A burnt smell filled the air. One of Lu Xing's younger brothers had a look of regret on his face. During such an important process of condensing the pill, he was distracted. It was just a moment of distraction, and the pill that was about to be condensed was directly burned. He was a little unwilling in his heart, but seeing that more than half of the incense had been burned, it was obviously too late to refine the pill again. Boom, boom, boom. Just when he was disappointed, another two people failed to condense the pill because of the disturbance of the sound. Fifth brother, what's wrong with you? You failed to refine the pill and even caused me to be affected. The one who spoke was Fatso Lu's second brother. At this time, his face was gloomy and uncertain. Enough, don't disturb the others. Just when Fatso Lu's fifth brother was about to speak up to explain, the fifth elder had already spoken. At this time, the incense had burned out, and many people had already entered the important stage of condensing the pill. If they continued to nag in the arena, it was estimated that many people would be affected. You good for nothing. Lu Xing's face was gloomy, and he muttered to himself. On Fatso Lu's side, there was no accident. He circulated the true qi in his body, and after a gentle force was applied to the alchemy furnace, he breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. The pill was formed. Fang Yu stared at the alchemy furnace, and he already had an answer in his heart. Next, there was a short and boring muffled sound. Among Lu Xing's 7 sons, except for the 3 who were eliminated, the remaining 4 had all formed the pill. This surprised Fang Yu. With their techniques and clumsy skills, it was already good that they could form the pill. Time's up, collect the furnace. After a long while, the fifth elder looked at the incense that had been completely turned into ashes and announced in a deep voice. Will young Master Lu win again this year? Not necessarily. The other young masters this year are quite good. Yeah, didn't fourth young master almost beat eldest young master last time? In the process of collecting the furnace, many people whispered under the arena. The quality of the Lu family's clan trial was getting better and better year by year. Last year, except for fourth young master and eldest young master, the rest were all eliminated. This year, for some reason, only 3 people were eliminated. It seemed that the Lu family's strength had improved again. The pill is without a grade. While they were whispering, the fifth elder had already slowly walked up to the arena. Looking at 7th young master's pill in front of him, he slowly announced. The pill was without a grade. This kind of pill was basically no different from not using it. At most, it could strengthen the body. It could not even be considered as the lowest grade pill. No grade? What's the difference between not using it and not using it? Ha ha, this young master of the Lu family is only SOSO. Is there something wrong with your brain? How many people can form the pill in the time it takes for an incense to burn? It's very difficult to do if you're not an alchemist. Below the arena, there was suddenly a commotion. Some spoke for Lu Xing's 7th son, and some mocked. Chapter 690. Fatso Lu seemed to be used to this kind of discussion. He stood quietly at the side and did not say anything. Gradeless pill. After looking at the 7th young master's pill, the 5th elder turned his gaze to the side again. After taking a look at it, he announced again, Gradeless pill again. It's already very good. Below the arena, the discussion did not stop. On the high platform, Lu Xing sighed and could not help but shake his head. Fang Yu wanted to comfort him, but looking at his expression, it seemed that it would be better not to say anything. A low-grade pill. Just as he was feeling disappointed, the 5th elder slowly walked to the side of Lu Xing's 4th son. When he saw the pill in the 4th young master's hand, he suddenly exclaimed, Low-grade pill. Although the grade wasn't very high, at the very least, it could be ranked. There was a huge difference between a low-grade pill and a gradeless pill. Even for a martial king realm expert, it could fill the Dantian sea of qi and increase the power of will. This kind of pill was expensive. At least in the Mirage Sea City, it was very valuable. Amazing. I told you, this year's 4th young master will definitely be interesting. It seems that the 4th young master will surpass the 1st young master this year. The crowd below the arena began to discuss again. Last year, the pills that he and Fatso Lu refined were both gradeless. However, in terms of the richness of the pill fragrance, Fatty Lu's was still a notch higher. In just a short year, the 4th young master's pill refining skills had improved by leaps and bounds. He could refine a low-grade pill in the time it took for an incense stick to burn. This was the standard of an alchemist. Not bad. Lu Xing, who was sitting on the high platform, nodded his head in satisfaction. The haze on his face also disappeared. The first young master's pill is also a low-grade pill. While the crowd was discussing, the fifth elder had already walked to Fatso Lu. After looking at the pill in his hand, a look of surprise appeared on his face. After a while, he came back to his senses and announced to the crowd, "Damn, the two young masters of the Lu family have improved a lot. Are they going to compete in pill fragrance again this year?" The crowd below the stage started to criticize again. Even Lu Xing, who was beside Fang Yu, began to lose his composure. The performance of his two sons had already exceeded his expectations. His eyes couldn't help but reveal a burst of joy. However, Fang Yu could tell that this joy was directed at Fatso Lu. He wasn't even this excited when he urged his fourth son to refine a low-grade pill. Fourth brother, I'm sorry." In the arena, Fatty Lu slowly kept the medicinal pill. He chuckled as he looked at his fourth brother, whose face was gloomy as he spoke. "Big brother, you've always won every year. Why are you still competing with me this year?" Fatso Lu's fourth brother's face had already turned gloomy. His face was so cold that it was almost dripping water. Last year, he had also used a gradeless pill, but he had lost to Fatso Lu just because of the pill fragrance. Fatso Lu was praised, but he was forgotten by everyone. He had spent a year painstakingly studying the art of alchemy. This year, he had finally refined a grade pill with great difficulty. He didn't expect that he would still be defeated by Fatso Lu. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. He gritted his teeth, but he couldn't vent his anger in front of so many people. Since the two young masters' pills are of the same grade, according to the old rules, we'll compete in pill fragrance. The fifth elder didn't notice the expressions of the two and announced to the crowd below the stage. Seeing that the crowd didn't say anything, the fifth elder turned around and took the pills of Fatso Lu and his fourth brother in his hands. Fang Yu had already roughly sized up the two pills from afar. Obviously, Fatso Lu's pill had a purer color and some of the power contained in it was softer. Needless to say, the pill fragrance was more. Just by looking at the appearance, the outcome was already clear. Judging by the pill fragrance, the first young master has won. After a long while, the fifth elder announced to the crowd. He had already tasted the two pills carefully. Just like last year, the pills refined by Fatso Lu were of a purer grade. "I'm so sorry, fourth brother." Fatso Lu shrugged helplessly and said to his fourth brother. His fourth brother didn't say anything. However, a cold look had already appeared on his face. In his eyes, an imperceptible murderous intent floated. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people present, this guy would very likely have made a move on Fatso Lu. Fang Yu shook his head. No wonder Lu Xing didn't like his fourth son. No matter how well he performed, Lu Xing was still biased towards Fatso Lu. The reason was very simple. This fourth young master was too scheming and sinister. He would definitely not be able to achieve great things. After traveling around Piao Ming and Shire prefectures, Fang Yu had developed his own judgment in judging people. It was obvious that this fourth young master was more broad-minded than Fatso Lu. The first round has ended. The first young master has won. At the same time, the fifth elder had already announced on the stage. Then, he turned around and looked at Lu Xing on the high platform. Seeing that Lu Xing didn't have any questions, he continued. Next, the second round will be mounted archery. The rules are very simple. The 7 young masters have 2 hours to hunt in the back mountain. After 2 hours, whoever has the most prey will win. While the fifth elder was speaking in a deep voice. In the backyard, a few attendants had already led a few spirit beasts to the square. The spirit beasts were equipped with bows and crossbows. Fatso Lu turned around and looked at Fang Yu. Without saying anything, he directly walked towards a spirit beast mammoth. The 7 of them were soon ready. With the attendants of the Lu family leading the way, they went straight to the back mountain. The so-called back mountain was known to everyone in Mirage Sea City. It had been bought by the Lu family. To put it bluntly, it was the Lu family's private hunting ground. There were all kinds of spirit beasts entrenched in it. Their grades weren't very high, so it was suitable for hunting in their spare time. So far, no one knew what it was like. After all, it was surrounded by the guards of the Lu family. Ordinary people couldn't enter at all. This hunt lasted for a total of 2 hours. It wasn't very long. Outsiders couldn't see the situation inside, so they could only wait quietly for 2 hours to pass. Master, in your opinion, who among my sons will win? Lu Xing also had nothing to do. Sitting next to Fang Yu, he asked in a low voice. These young masters' strength is not bad. It's hard to tell who will win. Fang Yu smiled and shook his head. On the surface, he was flattering Lu Xing. Fang Yu already had his own way to deal with such people. He was ambiguous and never gave a real answer. However, Fang Yu already had an answer in his heart. He just didn't want to tell Lu Xing. After all, they were both his sons. If he didn't say anything, he would offend him. Chapter 691. Fatso Lu would probably win this round of riding and shooting. In terms of strength, needless to say. Most importantly, he was smart and full of ideas. Especially his mount, which was different from the others. The strength of the beast's flesh had almost reached the martial dominator realm. On the other hand, the mounts of the others were mostly old and weak. In terms of speed, they were much slower than Fatso Lu's mount. It was obviously impossible for him to win. Lu Xing, who was beside him, laughed and said, Master, you are indeed a master. You obviously have something in mind, but you refuse to say it. After a few laughs, Lu Xing shook his head and said, Since you don't want to say more, I won't ask any more. Fang Yu heaved a sigh of relief. It was really difficult to deal with this old fox. Fortunately, time passed quickly. 2 hours passed quietly. Outside the Lu family's courtyard, the spirit beasts had slowly returned. The first to enter was Lu Xing's 7th son. At this time, he had a lot of spoils in his hands. Many birds were tied to the spirit beasts. This guy was not good at refining pills, but he was a first-class expert in riding and shooting. Fang Yu was a little surprised. It seemed that he had made a mistake just now. He had only paid attention to the 4th young master and neglected the 7th young master. Although this guy was ranked the lowest in the Lu family, his strength was the highest among the 7. Behind him, a few people followed one after another, but their faces were filled with disappointment. Obviously, the spoils in their hands were not as much as the 7th young master's. The 5 of them had already shown up, but Fatso Lu and his 4th brother had not returned. Looking at the sky, Lu Xing could not help but frown. In a while it would be too late. While he was in a dilemma, Fatso Lu slowly walked back from outside. Compared to the others, he did not have much spoils in his hands. However, when Fang Yu saw the purple spiritual bird behind him, he could not help but frown. This spirit beast's strength was definitely above average, and its value was very high. Its wings could be used as a space transmission treasure. However, although this purple spiritual bird was not big in size, its temperament was extremely fierce. It had always attacked the spirit beasts that invaded its territory. It was not much worse than the spirit beasts on Mount Yuan. Why is young Master Lu's spoils of war so little this year? Yeah, don't tell me you can't do it this year? In the past, it was always him and the 7th young master who decided the winner. This year, the gap shouldn't be so big, right? Not only Fang Yu, but the crowd in the square also began to discuss. No, look at what's in eldest young master's hand. Purple spirit bird. However, there were still people with sharp eyes who recognized the spoils of war in Fatso Lu's hands at a glance. Purple spirit bird. In terms of grade, it was much lower than spirit beast. On the high platform, Lu Xing naturally noticed the spoils in Fatso Lu's hands. Nodding his head, a look of relief appeared in his eyes. This fatty Lu was always able to give him unexpected surprises. On the other hand, Fatso Lu didn't look very spirited. Instead, he looked a little tired. It seemed that he had spent a lot of effort to capture this purple spiritual bird. He slowly walked into the crowd. Behind him, his unlucky fourth brother had also returned. However, fourth brother didn't have many spoils of war either. However, just like Fatso Lu, the prize in his hand was also a purple spiritual bird. Moreover, there were two of them. Although these two purple spiritual birds looked very inconspicuous, however, in terms of grade and value, these two purple spiritual birds were enough to be lower than all the spoils in the seventh young master's hands. This fourth young master is really extraordinary. It seems that he will be the winner of this year's equestrian archery competition. The crowd was surprised. Lu Xing was also quite surprised. How could he not know that his fourth son wasn't very good at equestrian archery? However, when he saw the two purple spiritual birds in his hands, he couldn't help but feel excited. This year's competition was held in advance to let the outsiders see the strength of the Lu family. As expected, his sons all gave him a lot of face. Seventh young master, one immortal deer, one pangolin beast, one rabbit beast on the arena. The fifth elder had already begun to count the spoils of war of each young master. Half an hour later, the spoils of war in their hands were finally counted. In this equestrian archery competition, the seventh young master has the most spoils of war. After counting, the fifth elder began to announce the number of spoils. As expected, the seventh young master had the most spoils of war. However, when the fifth elder said this, he frowned. After a while, he continued, however, because the fourth young master and the eldest young master's spoils are of the highest grade and are worth a lot of money. Therefore, it's still based on them. The spoils of war of the two young masters are almost the same. However, in terms of grade, the fourth young master is better. Therefore, the fourth young master has won this round of equestrian archery competition. The fifth elder's voice slowly floated out from the arena. The crowd below was in an uproar. Almost all of them were cheering. It seemed that the fourth young master had been trying to win people's hearts. Good. On the high platform, Lu Xing's face was full of joy. These young masters had given him a lot of face today. Big brother, this time, you can't suppress me, right? Lu Xing's fourth brother, Yining, looked at Fatty Lu gloomily and snorted coldly. Ha ha! Fatty Lu snorted coldly with a fake smile and didn't answer. He didn't look very good, as if he was injured. The 2 rounds passed very quickly. To Fang Yu's surprise, the Lu family's trial this time didn't seem to be just a formality. It could be seen that every round was very serious. Moreover, his sons were competing fiercely with each other. The third round was the round that many people were looking forward to. The arena competition. Everyone can participate in the third round. You only need 1 crystal to enter the arena. The rules are the same as before. If you can defeat any one of the 7 young masters, you can get back the crystal with interest. If you can defeat all of them, you will be rewarded with 1,000 crystals. As the fifth elder spoke, he had already stood at the side of the arena. Looking at the crowd below the arena, he slowly asked, "Is there anyone who wants to try?" After speaking, his eyes began to scan the crowd below the arena. "I'll do it." As soon as he finished speaking, someone volunteered to step forward. Not only because of the joy after winning, but also because of the reward. 1,000 crystals were enough for many people to eat and drink for a lifetime. There would be brave men under the heavy reward. The moment he spoke, many people behind him began to shout. They were still able to afford 1 crystal. Even if they lost, it was just 1 crystal. If they won, they would make a lot of money. In a moment there were already many people below the arena holding the crystal, eager to have a try. Fatty Lou stood calmly at the side, as if he had already been used to it. Chapter 692. Brother, which young master would you like to challenge? The young man who had been the first to hand over the crystal stones, and had already stepped onto the arena, was already standing beside the fifth elder. Fatso Lou and the others were standing below the arena, looking relaxed. They were a little afraid of these people's challenges at first, but after a long time they had gotten used to it. The Lou family's trial had been going on for more than 10 years. The 7 of them had already fought countless times. Fortunately, there was no killing in the arena, and they would stop when the battle was over. Therefore, even if the 7 of them were defeated occasionally, they would not be injured. Because of this, the people below the arena were also very crazy. Many people who were not strong enough dared to try their luck. Because of that, the duration of the trial had increased. Often, it would take nearly a week every year to finish. Moreover, the bodies of the 7 young masters could not bear with the endless challengers. Towards the end, they were not a match for many people. After all, this was not the arena of the competition. Those who stepped on the arena would either die or survive. Therefore, Lu Xing thought of a way. Every challenger would have to pay a crystal as the entrance fee. If he couldn't win, he would have wasted a crystal. Although a crystal was not a lot, it was enough to stop many people who were not strong enough. They had a plan in mind, so they would not waste a crystal. I want to challenge the 3rd young master. When Fang Yu's gaze swept across the arena, the young man who took the initiative to challenge had already set his eyes on the 3rd young master. This guy was quite smart and knew how to pick his opponent. Among the 7 of them, only the 3rd young master's strength was mediocre. In comparison, he only had the strength of a 1-star martial king, so he was not good enough. After all, this young man was a 3-star martial king. As long as there were no accidents, he would be able to defeat the 3rd young master. As long as he defeated the 3rd young master, he would not lose the crystal. This was the rule every year. Whenever someone came up, the first person to challenge was usually the unlucky 3rd young master. After all, he was not strong enough. Everyone knew that persimmons should be picked on soft persimmons. The 3rd young master seemed to be used to it. When the young man finished speaking, he had already stepped into the arena. The battle in the arena is over. Let's start, the 5th elder announced in a low voice. At the same time, the young man had already made his move. A tyrannical force filled his fist as he punched straight at the 3rd young master. The 3rd young master did not dodge. The moment the young man was in front of him, he suddenly lifted his leg and swept it across. As their fists and feet collided, neither of them used any powerful cultivation technique. What they were competing with was merely the strength of their physical bodies. Creak. After a crisp sound, the two retreated at the same time. However, in terms of physical strength, this 3rd young master was clearly not weak. It was unknown whether it was because he had been treated as a pushover by these people in the past, but this 3rd young master had become courageous after being humiliated. He had tempered his physical strength to a very strong level. And this young man clearly did not take him seriously. His 2 fists were not a full-force attack. In just one exchange, the young man seemed to be struggling. While he was in a daze, the 3rd young master made his move again. He leaped into the air and threw out a heavy punch. It was not aimed at the young man's throat. Creak, even so, his heavy punch still sent the young man flying. His entire body flew backward and fell heavily out of the arena. Although this strike was not enough to kill the young man, it was unavoidable for him to suffer some flesh wounds. This young man was clearly unlucky to have spent money to buy a beating. Has the 3rd young master become stronger this year? Damn, this is too terrifying. 1 minute. Below the arena, those who had not yet challenged were stunned. In the past, the third young master was the weakest and the easiest to recoup. This year, it was as if he had suddenly become a different person. In less than a minute, he had knocked the challenger out of the arena. This caused the crowd below the stage to be quite shocked. Good. Lu Xing sat on the high platform. In his excitement, there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. In the past, the third young master had always made him lose money. If it were not for the few people who came after him earning it back, Lu Xing would have lost a lot of money. This year, he had finally gotten his revenge. However, what he valued was not a mere crystal, but the improvement in the third young master's strength. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge? At the same time, the fifth elder had appeared in the arena again. His gaze swept across the crowd below the arena as he asked slowly. Forget it, I won't waste this crystal. After the fifth elder's voice fell, there was a moment of silence below the arena. Many people who were originally in high spirits and couldn't wait had already started to back down. In the past, with the third young master around, they were not afraid of losing this crystal. However, the third young master's strength had improved too quickly this year. If they could not even get past the third young master, there was no way they could get past the rest. I'll do it. However, after a while, someone spoke up. The person who spoke was a burly man. This burly man was fierce-looking and had a vicious aura around him. He was dressed like a butcher. Chapter 693. If this was not an arena match, if the burly man had attacked with all his might, the third young master would have been in grave danger. Great! This guy is too strong. He's breaking even. Below the arena, the audience was in an uproar. The fear of being dominated by the third young master was dispelled by the burly man's violent punch. And from the looks of it, the burly man did not use much strength. He could still continue to fight. Sigh. On the high platform, Lu Xing sighed and shook his head. The third young master had lost. He thought that he could hold his head high for once, but he did not expect that it would only last for 3 seconds. But this was much better than the previous years. After all, the burly man was very strong. Who else? In the arena, the burly man shouted at Lu Xing's remaining 6 young masters below the arena. Seeing that no one spoke, he pointed at the 6th young master next to Fatso Lu. Fatty Lu's 6th brother's strength was almost the same as Fatty Lu's 3rd brother's. The two of them were about the same. Although the burly man looked very boorish on the surface, he still had some brains. After looking at them for a long time, he picked the weakest one among them. After all, as long as he could defeat 5 of them, not only would he break even, but he would also get a lot of crystals as a reward. Be careful, Fatso Lu gave the order with a serious look. Looking at the 6th young master slowly entering the arena, he was already feeling bitter. With the burly man's strength, his 6th young master was obviously no match for him. Boom, boom, boom. As expected, the 6th young master had just entered the arena and exchanged blows with the burly man. In less than 5 rounds, the burly man's body showed a flaw, and he immediately attacked with his palm. The wind from his palm was not too strong. After all, this was the young master of the Lu family. He did not want to kill him. Bam! The 6th young master was hit by the palm, and his entire body was sent flying. This time, he was not as lucky as the 3rd young master. He flew for a long time and slowly landed on the ground after a long time. This attack was not fatal, but it was enough to make the 6th young master suffer. Damn! Where did this person come from? I've never seen him before. Is he from out of town? He's so strong. It looks like he can pass. Below the arena, the crowd was restless. At the same time, he did not forget to take pleasure in the misfortune of the young masters of the Lu family. The instant the 6th young master flew out, the 5th elder's face darkened. He had originally intended to take action, but after looking back at Lu Xing, he held himself back. Grandmaster, my two sons aren't strong enough. They've embarrassed themselves in front of you. Lu Xing suppressed the black lines on his face, and said to Fang Yu with a smile. The young master of the Lu clan is only this strong. Are there any stronger ones? On the stage, the burly man had won 2 rounds in a row and was already shouting at the audience. Unable to stand the mockery, Fatso Lu was ready to make a move. This burly man was clearly somewhat arrogant. Just as he was about to make a move, his 4th brother stood in front of Fatso Lu. Big brother, you're not going to snatch this from me, are you? He looked at Fatso Lu with a gloomy face, snorted coldly, and said with a smile, Aren't you afraid that you will end up like 6th brother and the others? If you fly down, it will be like Mount Tai collapsing. We won't be able to catch you. You! It was bad enough that Fatso Lu was humiliated by an outsider, but now he was being humiliated by his 4th brother. His face darkened, but after giving it some thought, he held it in. I'd like to see what you're capable of. Fatso Lu snorted coldly and stood back up. Meanwhile, the 4th young master had already slowly stepped onto the stage. As soon as he stepped onto the stage, a cold and vicious aura erupted from his body. This vicious aura was even stronger than the burly man's aura. The burly man frowned and immediately stopped smiling. Even an idiot could tell that the 4th young master was very strong. Boom! Without saying anything, the 4th young master's face turned cold. As his figure flashed, a gust of wind was stirred up. His speed was as fast as lightning. A gust of wind that could be seen with the naked eye whistled past. Then, it was an iron fist that was filled with violent energy. The burly man's strength was not weak either. The moment the 4th young master attacked, he had already reacted. His fists turned into 2 palms, and an aura erupted from his body. Rumble! There was a loud boom. The moment the burly man's aura erupted, the 4th young master's fists had already landed on his palms. Creak! The violent energy instantly sank into the burly man's palms. After a crisp sound, the burly man's face had already changed. Pain. A heart-wrenching pain. The 4th young master was going for the kill just now. This punch had directly shattered the bones in his palms. His face changed slightly, and he was shocked. He looked at the 4th young master and roared, This is the challenge tournament. You're going for the kill in the challenge tournament? The burly man's voice was very violent, and there was a hint of questioning in it. What's going on? Is the 4th young master crazy? Why is he going for the kill? Below the stage, the crowd was also very confused. You'll get used to it. Every year, they challenge the 4th young master and end up crippled. Who dares to challenge him? However, there were also people who knew the 4th young master's style. They were obviously used to it and did not think much of it. While the crowd was discussing, the 4th young master on the stage sneered coldly. He looked at the flustered burly man and snorted coldly, The challenge tournament is the challenge tournament. But you're not strong enough. Are you going to blame me for being too heavy-handed? To me, this is already holding back. His words were neither salty nor light. Not only were his words light, but he also pushed all the blame onto the burly man. The 4th young master was indeed sinister. Fang Yu snorted coldly in his heart. It seemed that the 4th young master did not realize how despicable he was. Instead, he thought that the burly man was too weak. Little did he know that the burly man did not even use his full strength. Looking at the 4th young master's stance, he was quite suitable to participate in the nibble tournament. After all, the people there were all like him. You've lost. The 4th young master looked at the burly man coldly and said, I'm not convinced. The burly man shouted as well. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. In terms of strength, he might not lose to the 4th young master. However, he had thought that this was just a challenge tournament. He did not expect the fourth young master to be so heavy-handed. Therefore, even though the bones in his arms were broken, his eyes were still filled with unwillingness. So, let's continue? The fourth young master snorted coldly. In the next second, he attacked again. A powerful evil aura erupted from his body. The aura in his sea of qi had been channeled into his fist. Don't hurt him. On the high platform, Lu Xing had already noticed that something was wrong and hurriedly shouted, "Fourth brother, don't hurt him!" Below the stage, Fatso Lu also shouted. Only Fong Yu frowned. He was already sneering in his heart. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.